series. So one module remains in this second one, which is Azure Function. I will start from Azure Function, and after that we will move for the next one called storage and security. So we need to take a look of all the services which we have. I will be explaining. I will be giving you time to pass your questions and answers. So I will be replying, and so for that you can learn a lot. So starting with the topic called Azure Function. So as a developer, we know that we are developing stateful services and stateless services. So Azure Function is the best example to develop or deploy, make it live, which we call stateless services. And for example, that in which scenario we will be using the Azure Function. As I mentioned, that they are on the cloud, on Azure, we have collection of services. We have different types of services. So for example, REST API, ODP, and so kind of services we have. Messaging based services we have. This is REST API, and we can also create or deploy REST APIs, as well as we can also deploy some background processes which are running on Microsoft managed environment, which you can use for your production environment. For example, I say here we have to create a function which will be timing based. So I say timing based function I want. So did I say after 12 o'clock in midnight that we want to start some function that they go and check somewhere in a data store, for example, Cosmos, for example, SQL, for example, storage. If we got some new data, they capture those informations and then store somewhere else where the application is fetching the information. So could be possible that you can define some task which is separate from your application. So you can use function app for that. It's not only timer based. You can use timer based functions. We have different templates available in Azure Functions. For example, we have storage queue. If any message persists in the storage queue, we have also service bus queue. If any new message persists in the queue, then what do you want to do? So for that, this task will be managed by Microsoft separately. As I mentioned, that you can develop your solutions, can deploy on app services which are running separately and get fetching information from different stores. These functions will run and get informations from different APIs, different sources, and can save somewhere. So you can use it for that. How to work with the function app? So go on the portal here. In the portal, we can write here function app, and we can see this is here. Click on the function app and click on the add to create a new function app. So it will be asking some parameters that what is the function app name, what is the resource group name. You can define, select the resource group. Now you say the function app name that you want to use code. So earlier we had a support of .NET framework as well, but if I say select code, we have .NET Core, we have Node.js, Python, Java, PowerShell code, but we don't have right now .NET framework. So .NET Core is available, which is open source, nice. So you can write the code in any language. If you will see the slide here, we have the same thing here, that solutions for running small pieces of code function, supports a wide variety of programming languages, for example, C#, Node.js, Java, PHP, and Python. So you can write the code in any language and can deploy it directly there. Then, for example, we will be using here definitely .NET Core, and then you can choose here region to create your function app. So without wasting time, because I knew that it will take some time, so I have my function app ready here. So which we can see, it's a function app already. The status is running. So I will be clicking on this function app. Once you will create a function app, you will reach on a page where you can create multiple functions. So what exactly we did? So by creating function app, we were creating the function app service. Inside the function app service, you can create multiple functions, and multiple functions can be based on different templates. So where are those templates? So we have, this is my function app service here, and here we can add multiple functions. So I will click on the plus symbol here, create new function app, and it will ask some information that you want to use Visual Studio, means full-fledged Visual Studio with all languages like C# kind of support, and we have full flag Visual Studio software which we use on Windows machine. You have Visual Studio Code, which is lightweight or slimmer version of Visual Studio, can be used on Mac machine to develop your applications. So you can also use Visual Studio Code. Any editor plus core tools, they say core tools, it means open source. If you have, you can also write the code there and can deploy your solutions on function app or in portal. In portal doesn't mean that we will not write a code. In portal means it will provide you an editor where you can write the code, whatever the language you will choose. Like for example, I have chosen C#, that will give me an area where I can write my C# code. So I will be selecting here in portal, click on continue, and now what we want to develop now. So they say they're giving me a few templates here. One is webhook plus API. So I can develop API, REST API services. Here it's actually live example. So ultimately you will write code, will click on save, and it will be published also. So it will give you place, write the code, modify code, and deploy. So it means save. Save means you have published it. You want to develop timer-based template, and what are the more templates I will discuss later about it. So I will be selecting here webhook plus API. Click on the create. So this template will allow me to, first of all, it will give me an area where I can write my C# code because I have chosen .NET Core. Okay, so this is our editor area. We see we have some code in C#. You can, as I mentioned, you can use Visual Studio as well. Can write your code and can publish it here, and it will also give you the area you can write the code directly here. It's totally up to you. In this example, they have a query string which is request. This is a request object we have, and here they're asking some, like we have a query string parameter called name, and we say hello name. So default value of name is Azure. So if I will run it, it will show me hello Azure. But this is REST API, and we know that if we want to consume REST API, we need an URI. So where is the URI? For that, you can click on this get function URL, which will give you an URI. You can copy this URI and can write a code to consume it, or you can check it on the browser level that is it working fine or not. So I'm pasting this URI in the browser window and just adding the parameter name equal to before, and if you will press enter, it will show you data in JSON form. So you can use same address in your code and consume your REST API. So this is, we have one function app here running fine, great, it's okay. You can also save it. After that, if you want to see that where are those files where they have, because we are developing a project, so we need the files. So you can go to the view files section here, and in the view files, it will be showing you the files list here. This is HTTP trigger 1 project 1, which will taking those files function.json and run.csx. So it will also provide you an area, means the complete code, the project to write your code. Now, if you want to add more functions in this function app service, so you can again go to the functions part here. Click on this function here, and then, as I mentioned, I will tell you later about the more templates. Now we have all templates available. We have chosen this one called HTTP trigger based template. You want to work with the Azure Queue Storage trigger, so you can also choose this one, Service Bus Queue Trigger, Service Bus Topic, Storage Event Hub, Cosmos DB. If a new document appears in your Cosmos database, then what you want to do? You want to read it or you want to pass some information, this information somewhere else, so clear to you. So we have IOT Hub Event Hub. So you have different templates available. You can choose any of them. And we know as a programmer, it sometimes becomes difficult to write a code which will be timing based. So let's click on the timer trigger. I want to schedule my timer trigger function app. So this is the name of timer trigger. You can change the name, and this is, if you will see, this is timing. Then when do you want to execute this timer trigger function? It means you can set time here. If you will click on this part, it shows you second, minute, hour, day, month, day of weeks to specify the schedule. So here, right, I say after every 3 seconds, I want to execute this function app. And where's the code? Once I will create this function app, this will give me again an editor to write my code. I can customize it. So then I will decide what exactly I want to do with this timer trigger. But this timer trigger function will execute after every 3 seconds. So click on the create. We are creating this function app now. This the second function app. So one is HTTP trigger based. Second, we have timer trigger based. We can see now we got a code here, and now we need to write some code here. So for that, I am just declaring some namespace here using system.net and using, we don't have any license like we get in the Visual Studio. So system.net.http, and if I say I want one more one, so okay, it's okay. We can try with this one. So I will make small change in the code. So I say public async static task, and here I will be writing here where client equal to new HTTP client class here, and I will be pasting not this one. I will be going back on my this address, which is my API function app. So I will be copying this complete URI and will be pasting here, or not here. We will be just declaring this instance, and then I say where response equal to await client dot get async. In this one, I will be pasting this address. This is my function app URI. Okay, so semicolon here, and then where result equal to await response dot content dot read as string async. Okay, great. And now you can pass result in the log information method like that. Okay, so let's try what we are doing in timer trigger. This code will execute after every 3 seconds, and in this one we are consuming our HTTP trigger based function. So let's click on save and run, and just verify that everything is fine in the code. And I hope that is fine. And we can see hello Vibhor is executing, and after 3 seconds is working fine. And it's executing. You can pause it, you can stop it if you want to stop here from the portal, or you can write a program also, because this function app will give you the SDK client libraries to communicate with your C# program or any other language which you have chosen. It will give you complete power to control, and you can work with the function app. So by this way, we have finished the function app part. So I can integrate the function app in the logic app, which what is it we'll discuss. We can integrate the logic app into the function app because all they are REST APIs. We can work with it. Totally up to you. So this is we have in function. Now we will move for the next topic. Before that, if you have any question about the function app, you may ask, please. You may just type your questions. Then I will be starting a new domain, which is storage. Stephanie, could you please tell me if you find any question?
So far, no questions. Let's give them another few seconds to type in.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. And then if we get other questions, we'll just hit them at the end of this next section.
Okay, thank you. So let's go for the next domain, which we have Azure storage. And I would say it's like organizations data. So our all applications data, our all clusters data, everything we save somewhere as a backup. So all our VHD files or all our applications, images, videos, and files, everything we call data. So if we are migrating from on-prem to the cloud, the first thing that about data security and how would we work with data. So as I mentioned yesterday, we have three stages of data. One is data is in motion, data is in process, data is at rest. On three levels, we want to actually secure it, and second, I want to make it available faster, so my applications or my organizations can use this information. Azure provides you a storage. This is in storage. It's based on REST API concept. So first of all, you have to create a storage account on Azure. When you create a storage account, we have something called here. Let me draw it on this document. So when you create a storage account storage account, it will be allowing you to access 4 different features. It means data categorization. So we have again concept called data classification and data categorization. So how to categorize your data? For example, if I want to save only my binary data, so we have for that blobs, which we call containers. If I want to store data in tabular form, we have tables for that. If I want to use assembly protocol to save my data on centralized place, which we call file share, so we have also file share service here. And if I want to use messaging queue, so we have also queue. So we have 4 features here. One is container. Earlier name was the blob, but now the name has been changed. It's container, and we have tables, and we have queues, and we have file share. This is we have 4 different types of features. But in a storage account, as a programmer, you need to write a code to connect with the storage account. So for that, storage account will provide you some keys. So we have keys here. So we have access keys here. So in access keys, it will be giving you the schema, means HTTPS, account name, and account secret key. You can use those keys to connect with your tool or with your programming environment. This is we have in a storage account, and then after that, once we create a storage account, we have again we have redundancy because we want to save our data. If Microsoft is saving your data on a single location, and could be possible of demilitarized zone, different country rules, or different types of threats we have. Microsoft is not continuing with this region. So what about my data? So we want to protect our data. So Microsoft says, if you will create a storage account, we will give you some redundancy. So you have local redundant storage. It means on the same data center in the single zone on data center, it will be saving some copies of your data. If your primary data center actually gets crashed, so you can still get secondary, but on the same rack or same zone, in a single zone. Then it gives you redundancy based on different zones. As I mentioned yesterday about zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 could be the part of same region. For example, East US. In East US, they have taken one building on lease where they have established their data center of 5 kilometers far, 10 kilometers far from this place. They have again taken a new building on rent, or they have their own premise where they have established again the racks. So you have zone redundancy also. It means 3 copies on the primary data center and 6 copies they will be saving on different zone level. So if main primary data center is not working, is not behaving fine, so still you will be getting your data from secondary, but you will not be getting the access of secondary backups or data. Then they give you the option to save your data on geographical locations on different regions. Again, 3 copies on primary data center and 6 copies on geographical locations. You can save your data, but again you will not get access to connect with your secondary databases, which is only saved. Then it gives you the power again, read, access, geo redundant storage. So it means 3 copies here and 6 copies on different locations. But this time you have access of secondary databases or storage where you have saved it. So you can divert your load. For example, business intelligence people, Power BI people, they want to only read data, so you can allow them to connect with your secondary databases. And primary, you can pass to read or write both. So these kind of we will get the features here. If you will see how to create a storage account, so I will be coming here to create a storage account, and what kind of options will we getting here. I will explain. So click on add here. So here we have, so you can write here, you can choose a storage group name, resource group name, you can define a storage account name. As we can see here, we have standard and premium, so we have different sizing part here. To more about the pricing tier, you can go on the Azure pricing calculator. So it gives you, Microsoft gives you a site called Azure pricing calculator. You can choose your for your resources. So just select here, and here you can choose your resource, and then it will give you estimation of your resources. For example, if you choose here storage here, and then you can go down and can select your storage part. First of all, I have already selected many services here, so you can check more pricing about from this website. Can take help from here. So in this one, they will be giving you the sizing part here. And in account kind, we have different options: general purpose version 2, general purpose version 1, and blob. If I will be selecting purpose version 1 or version 2, I will be getting all those 4 features: containers, tables, queues, and file share. Or we can say only files. It's okay. Don't write here share, so it's only files. Okay. So if I will be selecting here version 1 and version 2, as I mentioned, we will be getting all 4. But if I will be choosing here blob storage, we will be only getting the container, and this is suitable for VMs. So yesterday when I created a VM, I showed you that VM was creating a storage account, and it was a type of blob storage only, because we did not get tables, queues, and files. Okay. More features we have. So we have version 1. If I will select here purpose version 1, you can see replications here. We have few options: only locally redundant storage, geo redundant storage, read access geo redundant storage, GRS, LRS. As I mentioned, that 3 copies here and 6 copies on geographical locations you can save. And in the third option, you can also connect with those secondary storage or databases you have. If you will select here version 2, you will see that we get more options now: locally, zone, geo, read access, geo, zone, redundant storage, read access, geo, zone, redundant storage. So we have many options available in the version 2, even though we will also get here cool and hot tier. What is the meaning of that? If you are frequently connecting with your storage account and frequently getting data from storage account, you need to get a very good machine which can handle concurrent transactions. So you can select hot. If you think you are, sometimes you come or to connect with your storage, you are not frequently connecting with the storage account, it's good to choose cool. So it actually matters a lot, because you have to pay money for that. If you think as I mentioned, you can choose according to your requirement, that if you are frequently connecting, so go with the hot tier. This is a demonstration. So I will be selecting here version 1, and I will be selecting here locally redundant storage. Click on next, networking. In networking here we have public endpoint. It means that all endpoint means all public IPs can connect with your storage account service and can use it. If you say no, I want to be specific, I want to allow only a single network which can only connect with my storage account, you can select a public endpoint. And then if you have a VNet, so you can choose your VNet. So only, and on this, definitely on this VNet, we have also network security group, where we have defined our inbound security rules and outbound security rules. So all those rules will be also applied for a storage account. So you have control over your Azure managed resources. I will be going with the public endpoint. in this example, I want to allow people to connect directly with this storage account. Click on next advanced. So it says here security transfer, HTTPS, large file share, data protection. We have soft delete because we have replications on different locations. So you say hard delete and soft delete. So if you say soft delete, we'll delete from the primary one, but it will be still remaining on secondary. If you say hard delete, it will delete from every place. Totally up to you. Click on next tags, and then you can click on the review and create. So I have already created a storage account because we have time constraint. So my storage account is here. Click on VB sample store. This is, we have a storage account. As I have chosen a general purpose version 1, so it is giving me all 4 features: containers, file shares, tables, and queues. Even though you have also option here, you can choose here file, share, tables, queues. And how to connect with this storage account, because if I want to use container or tables, I first need to connect with the my storage account. So for that, as I mentioned, it will be giving me access keys. In access keys, this is my storage account name. Some programmers like separate. They are writing. They're accessing different methods which take separate parameters. For example, account name and key separate. And some programmers like to use one method which takes complete information, which contains account name, secret key, and schema, which is HTTPS. So it's totally up to you. You can go with account name and key separately, or you can go with a one line. So we have connection string. We have 2 keys here. So basically, this is there are many examples to use the keys. For example, I know about Azure. I have Azure subscription, and I am also running my own solutions. So I will be using the primary key for my own solutions. I have also my client. The client is also running some solutions. So I will give secondary key to my client. So client solutions will be running with my secondary key. But if after 2 months or 3 months, client doesn't want to continue with my subscription, so for that, I will regenerate the key of key 2. So it will impact only for the client business, not my business. So there are many different examples could be. I'm giving you a single example that why do we have 2 keys here. This will be a connection string. So if I copy this connection string here, and I want to connect with my tool, which is running on my premise. For example, we have a tool called Azure Storage Explorer tool. This is very good tool, specialized tool for your storage account. So you can click on this connector here, add account. In this add account, it will be opening a box where it will be asking that what kind of information you have. You have account name, account secret key. Account name, account secret key. For example, I say I want to pass account name and account secret. So click on this one, click on next. Then it says, okay, what do you want to show the name? This is display name, account name, and account key. You say, no, I have only connection string. So it also gives you the power to use your connection string. So use the connection string, click on next. Display name, I say demo Sam, and connection string I am pasting here. So click on next, and then click on the connect. So we have to find here where we have, here we go. So we have demo SAM, and we can see we have all 4 different services we have. All these are REST API. To more about REST API addresses, you can go on the property section of your storage account. In this property section, you can see this is file service endpoint, the file.core.windows.net. This is queue, and this is for table, and finally it will be for the container also somewhere. Queue, and this is blob. This is for blob, file, queue, and table. Great. So now I have been successfully connected, but here we have some issue that if I will be giving this connection string to the programmers, so they have full access over a storage account. So, but I don't want it. I want, if they only want to use table, I want to only allow them to connect with the tables. I only want them to allow to connect with the containers, or means one or two services. What is the requirement we have based on the requirement? But in this case, they are getting all access. So for that, we have here one option called SAS token, which we call shared access signature token. In this token, what is token basically? It is again URI, but it has different parameters. Parameters means what kind of service you want to allow to the developers or to the client. So I say in this one, I want to allow tables only. That what kind of resource type, like all service, they can access service, they can access all container and objects. Then we have ACL, access control list, read, write, delete, what kind of permissions you want to give to the developer or client that they can work with it. And then we have policy. The policy takes that the URI which I am generating today will expire tomorrow. It means I'm only allowing you to use this URI only for 1 day. It's totally up to you. You can allow them for 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, totally up to you. So I say 19, 3, 20, and then this time to this time, this URI will work. And if you want to, now we want to generate SAS tokens. For that, it says which key you will use to generate token. I say key 1. You can also use key 2. For security purposes, I will not recommend that go with HTTP and HTTPS. So the recommendation is always use HTTPS. So click on generate SAS and connection string, and now we have this only for table SAS URI. So copy it, and just to verify this one, I am just pasting here. Just a second. Okay. So this is, we have address here. I think it's viewable, it's clear. So we have, this is my URI, these are the parameters. Definitely they will be encrypted. It's not directly readable for us. So once you have this address, you can give this address to the client. For example, again, I'm working as a client. I will again connect with my storage account. And this time the Azure administrator has given me only a SAS token. So I will be choosing here, use a shared access signature URI. Click on next. I say demo2 SAM, and I will be pasting this address which they have given. So you can see here blob file queue, they have been disabled. Only table is enabled now. Click on next and click on the connect. So we have been connected with our account, but this time with the help of SAS, and we can only see tables. We do not have containers, we don't have files, we don't have queues. So this is a way to work with the storage account. So we have seen the storage account now. In the storage account, you can go to the portal here. We can see access, as I explained about the access keys. Now we will go for the first feature of your storage account. As I mentioned about the SAS token also. SAS token, that what is SAS token? Very helpful, very useful to protect your resources or features of a storage account. Now I will be taking the first part or first feature of this one, which we call table. We, in this domain, we have Azure table storage, but without knowing the storage account, will be difficult for us to work with this table storage account. That's why I explained about the storage account. So in the table storage, basically it's not RDBMS, and we call it NoSQL. So if I give you a small example that why companies are moving towards NoSQL instead to use RDBMS, I'm not saying that RDBMS has been expired, but definitely we have new approach where we can save data, and there are many reasons about it. So just take a scenario when we talk about this is we have a client. We have a client, and client sends a request to the web server somewhere, and then web server let's type here web server, and then web server communicates with database server like that. Here we have database and we have RDBMS. By the way, this is RDBMS we have. So RDBMS. Okay. In this one, it sends response back to the server. Server sends response to the client. So between the client and web server, we have HTTP, which we use, but between the web server and RDBMS, we don't use HTTP. We have TCP. We use TCP. So it means if we have here a mobile user we have. mobile user. In the mobile user, if you say we want to allow to connect with it, it is difficult. It's not possible because mobile understands browser and browser understands HTTP. So it's very difficult to pass this data to the users directly. But if we can manage to store data directly here, we say storage, and we say it can be accessed by REST API, and we are also storing data. And this data, if I want to pass to the mobile user, or to the watch, or to the client, to different devices which understand HTTP, will be easy for me. So we call it NoSQL concept. Storage elastic is powerful, but before using the table, Azure storage table, you have to plan. It's as I mentioned, it's not relational form data. So how to work with the storage table? So Microsoft Azure gives you a namespace called Azure Storage, which you can download by NuGet package in Visual Studio. This will give you a class called table entity class. Entity class is Microsoft Azure class. So your object, for example, employee object, department object, but whatever object you are using in your program, they need to inherit from table entity class. For example, I just take example public class. I say employee inherits from table entity class. So then you can actually pass the data of employee to the Azure storage table. This table entity class will give me few properties. So the important properties names are, if I will type here, the properties names are partition key. So we have partition key, we have row key, we have timestamp, and we have also tag also available. Timestamp. So we have those the properties. So in employee object, you need to also access partition key and row key. So how did they manage it? Because we need to filter data, we need to find data fastly from the storage table. It's not only inserting data there. The question comes because in RDBMS we write joining, inner join, left join, right join. How would we work it? So as I mentioned that these keys are required when you will insert data. So combination of partition key and row key will make a record unique. So I would say like that, if combination of partition key and row key will make a record unique. So you have to be careful when you will inserting data in the storage table. When you want to filter data, you can take the help of partition key or row key or combination of partition key and row key to find your data faster. When and how exactly it works? So we have this table. In this table, I will be inserting partition key. For example, I say I will be inserting row key and timestamp, and then my employee objects properties. For example, I say name, employee name, like that. So you can save the data and more properties you can add. I think we have, you can add 236 fields in the one table. You can just verify on Google to make sure that it's could be around 238 like that. But you can add these fields in the one table, and you can store complex objects data in the one Azure storage table. For example, I'm saying table name is roster. So in the roster table, I want to check here. I say Microsoft is a Microsoft partition key. Row key, I say I take the employee ID call 101, and then you can define here employee name. For example, I say test, and then you can write here Accenture, and you can write here 101, and then test 1. So if I'm inserting data in the same way, so if I want to find data I want to filter data based on the partition key, I say all Microsoft people I want to find fastly, so I can use partition key to filter data fastly. You have one, for example, we have one more table called department object. which is also inheriting from table entities. Now I want to insert department data here. So I say department name, and I say department description. Then you can write here ID, for example. You can use here ID, totally up to you. For example, 101 HR can define and something like that. So this record will not again insert. If you have inserted Microsoft 1001 in the partition key and row key, so you cannot insert this record again. That's why it allows me to filter data fastly. And then you can write, then in timestamp we have, sorry, partition row key we have HR. Then there is a no employee name in department object, so it will be null here definitely. And then department name here, you can define here exact HR, for example, hiring people, like that. You can define here people serving, like that. And here the records will be here you can see null because there is no employee data here, null, like that. So you can insert complex objects data in the one table. Just take an example when you want to buy products from Amazon e-commerce and you say add to cart. Add to cart doesn't mean that you are confident to buy it. It's still optional that you can buy it or you cannot buy it. So it doesn't mean that we are saving this information in the database. This is temporary data because it's totally up to the customer that he or she is interested to buy it or can remove from the cart as well. So this type of information you can use this kind of table storage and many other information. For example, real-time information you're capturing. For example, weather information. So it's good to capture information because we don't have time to save first in the RDBMS, then fetching information. It will be delayed. Then we can't say we have real-time information. So you need again NoSQL concept where you can save your data. And as I mentioned, it's a REST API, so widely approachable. You can use this data in multiple devices. We have table storage. Now for that, I have an example of table storage, which is this one. In this example, as I mentioned, that you have download a package by NuGet called storage account, which is this one. And I have here app.config file where I have my application setting. I have defined the storage account and I need a connection string. So I will be going here on the portal. I need again to access connection string of my storage account. I will be copying here. As I mentioned, you can also give SAS token or SAS key to the client. So you can paste here. This one, pasting, and we have replaced with this account. Great. Save it. I will be coming back on my program.cs. I have complex object here. These lines basically will allow me to connect with my storage account because this storage account is a key I have in the app setting here. This is storage account key and this is the value I have. And then once I will be connected with my storage account, I want to create a table. In this line, I say create table named roster, and next line create if not exist. Then I will scroll down and we say we have objects here, employee, and basically in cloud terminology, we don't say them records, we call them entities. So each record we call entity. So we have saved entities in the Azure storage table. You can now say, you can see here employee is inheriting to table entity class. Department is also inheriting to table entity class. In employee, we have a property, this one, and we have also partition key, row key, and years at company. In department, we have department name, and we have VB info. This was just an experiment that if any other object which is not inheriting from table entity, so can I insert this data in Azure storage table? Answer is no. This was just an experiment that if I'm using a property of my object in the object which is inheriting to table entity class. So, but in this scenario, you cannot insert this object's data in the storage table. Okay, exams point of view, that what is required, you need to, first of all, I'm initializing my objects, creating instances of employee and department here, which is this one. And this table operation class, so you can get some questions from table, that which object which you will be using to insert data in a storage table. So you can write table operation. And this I am inserting first department object data, calling execute method. Definitely, this can be also question that there will be 4 options in the question, that this execute batch. So you have to read the question carefully. Based on that, you can choose the method. Execute takes one or single instance data to insert in Azure storage table. We have table batch operation also. In table batch operation means, if you can see what I'm inserting in the batch operation, I say fourth and first. So I can go up here. Fourth partition key is IT and first partition key is IT. If the partition keys are common of few records, so you can put them into a batch, which I am doing, and by calling execute batch method, you can insert this data. Table query class will be used to fetch information once data has been saved in the storage table. So here I say this is my strongly typed data called employee, and based on partition key, I say if it is when partition key is equivalent of HR, show me all my data of employee, and I say in department, when partition key is equivalent of VB, show me all data. If you want to take the help of the partition key and row key, then you can use table operation dot retrieve method, and then you can write here partition key and row key to find data. So let's run this example and verify, do we have this data, or are we able to insert data in the storage table? I have also already pasted the question string in my code. So let's verify. So the missing packages. And we can see we have all this data. To get to see this data in tabular form, you can go to the tool here, which is Azure Storage Table. We can see we have this SAS key, and we were able to connect with tables account. You can just refresh this table once, because we have new table named roster. Expand it. We can see we have roster table. Double click on this table, and you can see data in tabular form. And we have inserted complex objects, or 2 different objects data into the one table called roster. Here we go. So we have this. As I was explaining, that when I'm inserting department data, I have only a single record of department or single entity of department. So in the ES at company, it shows me null. In department name, here employee shows me null. So like same kind of JSON, you can define your strongly typed object in your code, which can read those properties and can capture information. This is we have in Azure Storage Table. Any question from a storage table, please ask. Just type the questions. You will be getting few questions from the storage table. For example, partition key and row key combination, and could be possible they will be asking some questions that which object will you use to fetch information from a storage table. So table operation class, table query class, you can write query when you want to filter data based on partition key or row key. So these kind of questions you can see in the exam.
Vipor, I haven't seen any questions come through specific to storage tables. We did have a couple of general questions that came in as you were beginning the segment. Maybe we can hit those, and that'll give people a few extra, another minute to ask any questions related to the storage tables portion. One of them was, how can creation of the SE functions be done through a development pipeline?
Which function? SE function.
SE functions.
Could you elaborate? Like, could you please ask that? What is the kind of question?
Yep, Mark, that came through specifically from you. If you don't mind elaborating in the Q&A window, that would be great. And then there was a general question about whether logic apps would be covered.
You have, if you talking about the Visual Studio tool, you have a cloud template. You can, in the Visual Studio, you can go here, can click on the new project here. Then you have a cloud template. You can define Azure function if you want to develop here. You can use it in your tool also. So I think they're asking the same question: how to develop by programming, and then can deploy on. Basically, pipeline. I'm just a bit confused about. They're talking about the Azure DevOps, or they're talking about the pipeline. It is communicating with the logic app or Azure resources. So bit confusion we have. Yes, logic app. Definitely, we will be sharing the information about logic app, and I will be giving you the brief information about logic app. What is logic app and how do we use it? Definitely, we have this topic.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we'll give Mark a little bit of time to elaborate on the question if you want to continue through the module. Thank you.
Okay. So I will be going for the next topic called Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB, the earlier named was Document DB, is open source. And we have now two options, that table storage, which gives me tabular form. Yes, in the background, they will be using different technique to save data. But when we want to see data, we want to see in tabular form, because we have been working from a long time with SQL Server, Oracle, and MySQL RDBMS. So we are used to see this kind of information in tabular form. You have Cosmos DB, which is more for data level. So I give you a scenario. Then when should we use storage table, Azure storage table and Cosmos DB? So just a second. So in the Cosmos DB basically takes data in JSON form. Let me explain the Cosmos DB part. First of all, we have to create a Cosmos DB account in Azure portal. And once you have an account, again, through program or through tool, you need to connect with it. So this Cosmos DB account will give you access of the it will give you the keys to connect with your tool or program. So keys we have. Then after that, Cosmos DB account will allow you to create database like you have in RDBMS, but don't compare with the RDBMS. Here we have in database, we have containers like a table. You have tables in. This is the hierarchy we have. So we have Cosmos DB account, then we have database, and we have containers. In the containers, you can add items. Items are in JSON form, which we call document. As I mentioned, that nature is a JSON form. So it's now more about browser capability. Browser understands XML and JSON, so it's easy to pass this information. No conversion. What Cosmos DB account does, Cosmos DB works, it takes data directly from the browser, which is in JSON form, saves in JSON form. They have already a schema of JSON. So they only take the parameters, what you are passing, save there. And then if they want to pass or sync data somewhere else, because of nature of JSON, it is very, very fast to sync data. In which scenario we will use for Cosmos DB. So I have a scenario here that we have a data in, for example, just take example of Google. I'm not saying it's 100% right, but I'm just taking this example and assuming that when you type test in Google text box, so in US, people can see 6 items when they type test in Google text box. And because if this in the different region, for example, Southeast Asia, when they say okay, so when they write test word, they also see 6 items in Google text box. What happened? They have inserted 2 new items in US. So people from US now can see 8 items. So 2 new items which we have, for example, they take some time to sync with this Southeast Asia. And we are just pretending that it takes 1 minute, for example. It will not take, by the way, 1 minute, but I'm just pretending that it takes 1 minute to sync data from this to this. So it means data is not consistent. So here people can see 8 items and Google can think, okay, it's okay for me. It takes 1 minute. It's okay for me. In Southeast Asia, people can see 6 items, while in US, people can see 8 items. After some time, all people can see the same items. It's okay for them. But if I will take the same scenario in the stock market, and we have some amount which has been updated in US, and if it is not syncing everywhere, if we have a lag of 1 minute, so it means $billions lost we have. So as I give you 2 examples where we need data consistency and where we don't need data consistency. So if you want to work with this kind of situations or scenarios, Cosmos DB is a perfect resource you can use in your organization because it gives you the control to choose a strong consistency with data or eventual. This is if we can see 8 items after 1 minute, we can see here 8 items after 1 minute. So it means data is eventual. And in between we have also a few more options available when we take about when we say data is when we want to maintain, for example, I'm inserting A, I'm inserting B, I'm inserting C. So we will also maintain this order here. If we will not maintain order, could be possible here can, because it's sync power, B can reach first and then C can reach and then can A, like that, or could, because there's no order. So then they also give you a few more options to choose the order or session wise. For example, a single user base, single user can see same data everywhere when it is getting a session. So different types of options available in Cosmos DB. This kind of control we have in Cosmos DB, as I mentioned, that all data will save in JSON form directly. So it's much faster. And by the way, it doesn't take 1 minute, it takes nanoseconds to quickly sync data from one location to another location. It doesn't mean that all 32 regions of Microsoft data centers, it will sync everywhere. You have to choose locations. So you, for example, I have my business running in Southeast Asia, but I am getting more business from Europe. So I will select my read locations, Europe locations, so people can get data from Europe fastly. So now from Southeast Asia to Europe, data will sync. Not all different locations data will sync. It's not example of CDN, content delivery network. It's example like where you will choose region, data will only sync on those locations. So we can choose multiple read regions. Now the question comes, can we write data from multiple regions also? Answer is yes, you can also choose multiple write region. But it's a good part is you can choose single write region and multiple read regions. So you can allow different regions to read data fastly, and based on your option which you have chosen, for example, strong consistency or you have eventual, based on that you can choose it. If you choose strong, so 8 items we have here, no one will see the, for example, everyone will see the 8 items at the same time when they will sync from different locations also. So no one can see updated information. So how to create Cosmos DB account? So you can go to the portal here, Cosmos, and Azure Cosmos DB we have. So click on this Cosmos DB. We have add button here, and then it will ask some parameters for your Cosmos DB account. So we can select test group here. We have, and because of the nature of Cosmos DB account, as I mentioned, it's open source. We people, you are using SQL Server, Oracle, RDBMS means. So we use SQL API to fetch information against of those data stores. But we have also different or other APIs which you can write and to fetch information from open source data stores. For example, Cosmos DB. So Cosmos DB also supports different APIs, and APIs names are we have here, for example, we have SQL API, core SQL API. You can use SQL API. Definitely, we will go with the SQL API. We have also Gremlin. You can use Gremlin API to fetch information against a Cosmos DB account database. You can use Cassandra. You can use MongoDB API. So we have different API support, which is very, very good because many people from worldwide, they will be using different APIs. They have different skill set. For example, we people work with the SQL, but people work with the Gremlin. And here we have directly support in Cosmos DB. So when you create a Cosmos DB account, it will ask you which API you want to use. So we have core SQL, Cosmos DB for MongoDB API, Cassandra, sorry, spelling mistake on Cassandra in my document. Azure table, we have Gremlin graph, so you can use any of the API. I work with the core SQL, so I will be definitely going with the core SQL we have here. You can choose here geo redundancy, enable multiple region rights. You can choose enable here. You can also change it later, totally up to you. It takes lots of time, so I have also created the account of Cosmos DB in my subscription, which is here. It's a blank, it's only account I have, no database, no container, no documents. I click on this Cosmos DB account. As I mentioned that if I want to connect programmatically with this Cosmos DB account, so I will need a key. So here we have Cosmos DB keys. You have primary key and secondary key and connection string also. You can use those keys. We have, this is where I was talking about default consistency. We have option here. You can choose default consistency. So we have a strong consistency. It means if data has been modified or updated in US, it will not be shown or it will not be viewed by the US people until it will not sync from with all regions. So it's a strong consistency. You can go with the eventual. In between you have a session, bounded stainless. You can go through with it, that globally distributed application expecting how low write latencies, but total global order guarantees we have. We have session based on the single region as well as globally distributed application. We have prefix where they maintain the order like ABC kind of stuff. You can choose. Again, it's totally up to you. So you can also select here replicate data globally. Click on this. In this one, it says you want to enable multiple region rights. Right now, we have single write region and no read region. If you want to choose the read regions, just select here radio button, for example, like that. Now we have UAE North. You can choose like that. You can South Central US. Can choose different location like that. So you can choose different read regions. So with these regions, data will sync. And what the Cosmos DB says, data is very fast. It takes very less time to sync from one place to another place because the nature of JSON, it's very fast. So click on discard. I will not be using this regions part here. Click on the overview. Now I will be creating here container. It says add container. So we don't have database. So when you create add container, it will first ask to create database ID and then container. It's like an Azure storage table account. We had partition key or row key to separate the entities or grouping the entities. Here you have also the same information. We call it, first of all, like database ID, so VB cos DB is a database name. Throughput, basically, if you, in a short way, because we people coming from DBA database line or data part, they are not good to understand the core level. Like this, if I say 6 core or 14 core machine, how many concurrent transactions it can handle, we cannot understand easily. So we have throughput value. If you will increase throughput value, it means the concurrent transaction input output can be faster if you will increase the throughput value. So you have to also pay based on your throughput values. So you can increase or decrease based on that, and it is also showing you the estimated speed based on that how data will fast based on your throughput unit value. Container ID, I will be writing here bbcon, my container ID, and then you can define your partition key. For example, I am defining here ID to, as I mentioned, like separating or like for grouping to filter data, you need this partition key. You can add more unique keys, kind of a row key. You can add more unique keys. So based on the partition unique key, you can insert data and can be these keys can be used to filter information. So click on the OK. So we are creating this database and container, and we have already chosen core SQL API. If you would have chosen Gremlin or Cassandra, then it would have shown you here Gremlin or Cassandra APIs. If I will expand this one, we have this cost DB database, and this is we have bbcon containers. We have items here, and here it will show me JSON schema if you have already data. So right now we don't have any data. Definitely you are not using this approach to insert data. You will be using the client libraries in your project or program to work with it. So once the Cosmos DB account is ready, then through programming, you can create Cosmos database, you can create container, and you can insert data through your application directly. So we have all objects and methods available. Click on new item here. So it says this is we have JSON data. As I mentioned, this we call document, and this is in JSON form. So I say 101, I say name, and I say Vibhor, and I say address, I say India, and now I can save this one. So this is we have already a schema of the Cosmos DB document JSON data. You can insert new item also. Again, I'm just writing here 102 and name Steve, and we have save it. We say new item, one more record we need. So I'm just inserting here 103 name, and I say you can save it. So we have this data now. We have all these records here. These all documents we have. You can now it's time to write API to filter data, find data which we have stored in the container. So we have, if you click on this database part here, sorry, not database, in container part, click on this. We have new SQL query. One more time, select your container. You can see the ellipse here. Click on this option. Click on new SQL query. Click on this, and here you have to write core SQL API. Don't write your SQL Server API like SQL Server API. It's core SQL API. So you have to write. So we start from bbcon. This is my container. Why it's not allowing me? One more time. Okay, bbcon as A. So you can define it. You can execute query, and we can see all data is here. You can write the clause also. For example, where A dot ID equal to 1102. and then just run it. We can see it's working fine. So we have Cosmos DB. We have Cosmos DB. Now, if you want to access programmatically of it, so as I mentioned that you can write application, web application, where you can have your own form. The form will be inserting data directly in the container, and then you can write some code to fetch information. So I have an example of Cosmos DB here, which is VB Cosmos console. In this one, I have app.config file. Sorry, I am directly using this endpoint URL in the code and primary key. So I'll go on my Cosmos DB account, go to the key section. I need this URI. So I will be copying it, pasting in my code. Okay, and I also need a primary key. So this is my primary key I have. Copy it and pasting here. Great. Now you have to download a package by NuGet in your project called Azure Document. You can just write here Azure Cosmos DB in the NuGet package, or you can write Azure Document DB, and then you can download this package in the project and then declare it on the top. So you can use objects and methods. Then this namespace will give me a class called document client class, which will be connecting with my Cosmos DB account. And then because I have to tell the data, thus I need to take this information in my object form. So I have my object called employee JSON data. I have property called ID, name, and address here. This is actually exposing metadata information here, so I can store all data in this object. Then you can just write here client.create document query. This could be the question in the exam that they will be asking, which method would you use to fetch information from the Cosmos DB container. So the method name is create document query, and here it says VB is my database name, VBCon is my container name. And then you can just write this loop to fetch information. Just verify, are we able to see this data of Cosmos DB? And we can see all data is here. Great, this is Cosmos DB. Any question, guys, in the Cosmos DB now? You may just type your question.
I haven't seen any questions come through yet related to Cosmos DB, but let's give people another few seconds.
Okay.
Mark did clarify the question. It was just a typo. He was basically saying at the pause on the last segment, he had said, how can Azure functions be created and maintained through a DevOps pipeline? So it was more of a general question.
From Azure DevOps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically, what exactly I'm looking for that if they say they're developing the REST APIs and now they want to integrate with the Azure DevOps, they can pass the builds there and can directly pass those hooks or APIs on the Azure function. But it's not like an app service, so we need to inject code. I don't think that we can pass it there basically in Azure DevOps pipeline. But it's a nice question. I will check it in the break time and we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any other questions at this point. If we'd like to go ahead and move on.
Okay. Next one, we have a relational database here. So RDBMS. So this is a normal relational database management system. So you can create your all tables, procedures, views, triggers on the Azure, and Azure is providing you SQL database as a service. So because it's a service, so you can integrate the service in any programming environment. For example, Java, .NET, ODBC, yeah, PHP. You can directly use it. So when you create SQL database on Azure, before that you have to create Azure SQL Server, which is logical SQL Server, which will allow you to connect with the Azure SQL Server. Then you can connect with your Azure SQL database. So let's see here. When I'm creating here SQL database, you can type here. We have also SQL Server, which is separate resource. You have also SQL database. You can first create server, then can come to database, or you can click on the SQL database, and at the same time it will be also allowing you to create SQL server. Or you can go to the menu option here. We have SQL database as a service, which we can see here. Click on this SQL database. You can create a new SQL database here. And what we have in SQL database now, when you will create it, let me just quickly explain. So first of all, you have to select a source group, and it says what your database name. So I say VB DB SAM. This is my database name. It says, do you have a server? Right now, I don't have any server, so I will be creating a new server. Creating a new server. So I say VB DB server. Admin, you need to write username and password to connect. So I say this is okay, and on which location you want to create. So I will go with Southeast Asia. Now click on OK. So basically, when we were creating the virtual machine, it gave me the option to choose the core, RAM, memory, like that. But how would I choose my machine for my SQL server? So they give you two options. They say you can choose here compute plus storage directly. Click on configure database. What is elastic pool? I will explain. But before that, let's go on the configure database here. So in the this is again. It says here SQL Elastic Pool. Right now we are not using Elastic Pool. It means we are using dedicated pool for a single database or like in a server. So it means dedicated pool. So your database will be much faster when you will be using in your production environment. Click on and what kind of configuration you want dedicatedly for your database. So it says here I want a core. You can increase number of cores here. It also gives you the estimation here that if you will increase the number of cores, then per GB, cost per GB, it's multiplying and then giving this amount. You can increase number of cores, and you can also increase number of like a GB size here. And this is comes in the general purpose. So we can see we have 80 cores here. We say hyperscale. We have 24 core virtual core. We say, but actually sometimes it's very difficult for us to understand by the cores. So I don't know that how many transactions, how fastly it will perform read and write. So we want to people from database side, they understand DTU, data throughput unit. So they know if they will increase the DTU value, then data server is very good. It can respond faster. So if they want to choose the server machine by choosing the hardware DTU level, they can go to the looking for basic external premium here. Click on this. So they also give you this control to increase number of DTU values. So if you say 3000 DTU value, it means you are using very good machine. Just take an example. If I increase the value of it, so this is the amount of it, and if you will say the rest value, we have very less amount of it. So if you will increase number of DTUs, so your server will behave fastly. So totally up to you. You can choose by the hardware means core, or you can choose by DTU value. This is we have a dedicated DTU for your single database instance. But you say I am selecting here 3000 DTU, and now I have 6 databases. I want to distribute these DTU values in among my all databases. Then I will go for elastic DTU. This is called elastic pool. It means shared in among database. Right now I'm not using first database, I'm using second database. So if I have dedicated DTU for my first database, it means I'm not using it. I'm paying for it. But it's a shared one, elastic pool. So if you have chosen 3,000 and you are not using the first database, you are only using second database. So 3,000 DTU will be used by second database. So you can go with the elastic or you can go for the dedicated one. I am going with default selection called 2 core and 32 GB storage. Click on next networking. Again, it says no access. So no one can connect with my SQL server or database. You say public endpoint, it means public other public IPs or they want to connect and you are allowing to connect with it. So it says allow Azure services and resources to access this server. You say yes. And what is current IP address? I will explain later. So let's go on the next additional settings here. You want to use this database, which is none. It means you want to use it according to your organization's requirement. You want to use this database for backup purpose. You want to use this database as a sample, for example, adventure works kind of thing. I'm going with a none now. This is called culture information, language. Click on next tags, and finally, I'm creating this SQL server with SQL database. Okay, so my source is ready. This is I have my SQL database, and this is my server name. If you will click on the show database connection string, so they give you the connection string. As I was explaining in my diagram, that from web server to database server, we need TCP. It's also mentioned here. It's a TCP. If you're using AD.NET to connect with your SQL server, so you can use this connection string. You can use in JDBC Java how to connect with it. ODBC PHP Go. So they give you different way to different languages to connect with SQL database as a service. If I say now I go to the overview here and I say I will be using this server name, and if I use a tool to connect it, so I click on Server Explorer. We have data connection. Right click here. I click on the add connection. I want to manage my Azure SQL server and database through my tool. So I will be pasting the server name. I want this is SQL Server Authentication. It says this is username and this is password. If I will click on database drop down, it will not show me. This is called security we have in Azure SQL Server. It says no because I allowed public endpoint can connect with my Azure SQL Server, but we have to define the public IP range or ranges there that these public IPs can only connect with my SQL server. So I don't know my IP address right now, so I will go on my Azure SQL server. It gives me option to set my firewall for this SQL server. Click on set server firewall. So it gives me a hint that your client IP address is this one. If you have range of IP addresses, you can define the start IP and end IP and define a rule name. So I want to basically allow this IP to connect with the Azure SQL server. So I say add client IP. It has been saved as a rule. In the start IP, they are using the same IP, and again same IP we have saved. Just click on the save button, and this is saved. If I will go again here, and if you just change a small thing here like T, something like that, click on this drop down one more time, and this time it will allow me to connect with my Azure SQL server. Click on my database, and click on the OK. So now you can use it like a normal SQL server table, but basically you have been successfully connected with your Azure SQL server database. And now you can use it in the programming tool. You can use your ORM tool. In Java, we use Hibernate. In .NET, we use Entity Framework to connect programmatically, so you can now work with it. Any question, guys, here? In Azure SQL Server and Database?
Vibhor?
Yeah.
Hi. So you were asking questions related to this segment, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
From SQL Server.
Yep. So there was another question from Mark. I know it's NoSQL, but is there a way to do a query with a join between two containers?
No, they're talking about a Cosmos DB. Yeah. Like when we talk about a custom collections kind of stuff in the programming environment, you can fetch the information from two different containers. As I mentioned, they are REST APIs, and then you can write your filters, your all. I can use link queue against of my custom collections and can fetch data. And basically, it's a JSON form, so it's very faster. So what I'm trying to say, for example, you have employee container, you have department container, you can access both objects data on your web server side. Then you can write your link queries to fetch information. It's okay. You can do it.
Okay. Thank you. There aren't any other questions at this point. We have about 30 minutes. Yep, we have about 30 minutes, and then we'll take a 15-minute break.
Okay. So now we will move for the next topic called Azure Blob storage. If you want to basically, we are from developer community. And we know how to use ORM tool to connect with our RDBMS. So they say here create, read, update, and delete. You can just use it normally like you use against your local database server, because as I mentioned, when we connect with our database server, we need to have a server name, username and password. Then you can use normally to perform CRUD operation against of your Azure SQL databases. It's a common thing. You can just check it. If you want still some documentation about the CRUD operations, you can just type it in the chat box. I will be sharing some references with you where we have CRUD operations against of Azure SQL database. So we will move now for the next topic called Azure Blob storage. So let me go on my document, this MS Word, and first of all, we need to work. We call them container. Earlier named was blobs. Now we have container name. In the container, we have three types of blobs basically when you insert data. What is blob? Binary large object. We can upload our images, videos, expensive data. we can categorize separately. Ultimately, everything is blob, we know very well, but actually it's not a way to work with it. On the top level, we need to categorize our information so we can fast data easily. So we have containers, which is blob, and we have three types of blob, which we call blob. We have second type of blob is called page blob, and third we have append blob. So we have three different types or three categories in the container: blob, page blob, and append blob. So what is blob and a page blob? So just this is a scenario I give you. I went not now in today. Now in these days, time is not good to watch movie outside. But for example, I went out with my friends to watch movie in a theater, and we got random seats, and we can't shout, we can't use our mobile phones in theater. It's very strict area we have. And now no one is liking movie. Everyone wants to come out from theater. So how would I actually call my friends? How would I connect with them? Because we have random seats. And as I mentioned, we can't shout, we can't use mobile phones. It's very difficult, basically. It takes time. The process will take time to connect with my old friends and then come out. Then I will be taking the seat number of my second friend, and second friend will be taking the seat number of third friend, like that, and then we will be out. We have one more option that all 10 friends, we got sequential seat, and no one is liking the movie, everyone wants to come out. So it's like a very fast to inform to my next friend that, okay, you can say to next friend that come out, the movie is very boring. So there are two ways to basically save your information. One is random based, and second is sequential. Sequential is very fast to read and write. So blob is working on the sequential form. So it stores data sequentially, very fast to read. So it's ideal for your application. So if I talk about a Facebook kind of example, so there are applications level data they will be using in the blob where they can store data in sequential manner. And but in a sequential manner, what happens? You will read data, you will write data from 0 index, will go on the last index. If you want to again write data, you have to again go on the 0 index and again have to write it. It's not like you can go on a specific block and can insert data there. This is not possible in the sequential storage when you store data in sequential manner. But we want this kind of facility also. So for that we have page blob. Page blob says we create page while blob create blocks, and the block size here we have from 64 KB till 100 MB. In between you can have a block size, you can choose. Sometimes you see when you are copying data from the USB on your laptop, so it's very fast. Sometimes it takes some time because the block size is big when they read data. So page blob is basically creates page, and the page size is 512 byte page. We have each page size is 512 byte page, and you can go to the you can go on a specific page, can make changes. For example, in my operating system, I want to configure IIS, so I don't need to again install operating system from the scratch. I just need to go on a specific page just to configure IIS. That's it. So page blob is suitable for large files when you can directly go on a specific page and can make some changes, random read or read or write, which we call offset reading. So it is suitable for your VHD files. So I would say you can, all virtual machines which you create on Azure, they use page blob to save your VHD files. So I would say it's suitable for VHD files. If you will go back on my the portal, and you will see here in the virtual machine, in the storage here. So let's go to the storage account. Yesterday we created a virtual machine, and I chose unmanaged disk, and we have disk here. Can we see? Yeah, it's here. Test GRP disk, where we have the VHD file. I will go on the containers. As I mentioned that Now you understand about the containers. We cannot see here tables, queues and files because it's only a blob type of storage account we have created. So click on the containers. We have VHDS and this is we have VHD, and you can see the blob type is page blob. So it's suitable for VHD file, large files. Then we have next blob called append blob. Append blob basically it goes on the last index of your data. Basically, it's a new version or new form of blob. So when you save data, the pointer stays on the last index and waits for new data. This is we call it append blob. Append blob is suitable for the log files, and that how when we are getting some new logs informations. So because the cursor is already on the last point of the index, then it adds again and again, reaches on the last index, waits for the new logs information or new data. This is we have a blob, page blob, and append blob. So in the questions, they will be giving you a scenario. Then they can ask that you want to store log files. So which blob will be suitable for you? The options will be blob, page blob, and append blob. So you can choose append blob if this kind of question comes in the exam. If I will go on my storage account now, so let's go to the storage account, close it, and I will be also close. This is we have storage account, so I click on maybe sample storage. Then we have containers here. In containers, so you cannot directly insert data in the means you cannot directly upload your blob, means a file in the storage account or inside the container. You have to first create a container. Container again is to categorize your data, and container will also give you some security power. So you can say all blobs are protected, no one can see my blob, or you can say all people can see blobs but cannot enumerate container. So ultimately you have to create some kind of folders, for example images, videos, PDF, this kind of folders we don't call folders, we call them containers, and then in the containers you can upload the blob files. So when you see here we have containers. Right now we don't have container in this storage account. So click on the container here. I say container name is IMG. This is my container, and it's a public access level, private. It means no one can connect with this container, can see blob data. We have blob, only blobs can be accessed outside, but no one can enumerate container. So it's something like that. If I am giving the blob name as a GUID value, it will be very difficult for the people to remember the name of the blob or remember the file name. So basically, you want the power to enumerate your container so you can see all the list of your blobs. So if you don't want to give them, you can only choose blob, or if you want to say people can enumerate container to see the list of the blobs, you can select containers here. So click on containers, click on create. So I'm creating a container now. So we have a container here, click on this. Now I can upload a blob file here. And as I was explaining, you can expand the advanced section here. We can say here we have page blob, append blob, you can choose. And we have size from 64 KB till 100 MB of the block size. Default option is 4 MB. You can just upload a file here. And this is we have image 2, select open and click on the upload. Okay, it's done. Just click on this blob and you can just take this URL and paste here. And here we go, we have this image. So we have this one. I have also example of blob storage. I have MVC application where I have a controller called VB controller. In this controller, I have a very small form with a file control and submit button where the file control name is image 12. I will be uploading this file, but first of all, I need to connect with my storage account so I can use container. For that, I have a connection string in my config file of the project. I need to just change this connection string. I'll go on my portal here, and in portal, I will be just copying my storage account connection string. So I go on the access keys. In access keys, we have connection string. Copy this connection string. Here we go. So now I'll go my code. I will be just replacing this code with my new code, and here we have just removing this endpoint like the domain name because it will be already coming with my code. Save all. Now in VB controller here, this will be taking a parameter of my control through query string and then storing data in my variable. This line here is reading the connection string from my config file and then allowing me to connect with my storage account. And if you are using the container, means blob, so you have to become a client of it. The Azure gives you object called cloud blob client. If you are using table, it will give you cloud table client. If you are using storage queue, it will give you cloud queue client. Now I say I want to connect with my container img. If the container doesn't exist, then I want to create programmatically here. Create if doesn't exist, but the container already exists in my account. And this is the same permission I want. I am giving public access on the container level, applying the permission here. These kind of questions you can also see in the exam that set permissions method you will be using to apply the permission over blob or container level. And here I'm giving a GUID name to my blob, means file name. And finally, this I'm telling the type of the blob, means a blob kind. I'm saying blob I want to use, and upload from a stream. Finally, will upload my image from my application to Azure. So let's run this application and test it. And guys, one of you asked a question about the pipeline. So definitely you can use. I can remember when I was creating the function app, and in the function app, it was showing me some files there, which was CSX and JSON files. So you can create YAML file to integrate with your Azure DevOps. So you can definitely integrate your function app with the Azure DevOps pipeline, but with the help of YAML file, you can just create it based on that. Okay, so I will be writing here /VB. This is my controller, and here we have a form called choose file. And I will be going on my C drive and check folder. We have image1. Click on open, upload image, and we have this is we can see that verify here that do we have containers. So click on the containers here. Now we can see two files we must have here. Yes, image underscore this is GUID value and dot extension. This I did programmatically. And this is we have. So this is a way to communicate with your Azure Blob account. Now guys, any question from this complete domain, because we have finished the domain now? Stephanie, did you find
Yeah,
any new?
no, I was just getting off mute. No, it doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. I will give another couple of seconds. And can we get through a little bit of the first lesson of the next module before we break in 15?
Let me check it. But before that, let me answer the question which one of the participants asked about the Azure DevOps with the function app. Yes, you can do it.
Okay.
You can remember that when you go to the Azure DevOps site, then and you want to integrate with your Azure, then it gives you option to select a Azure code, and in the list you can find the function app there. You can integrate your code with Azure DevOps, and from Azure DevOps you can directly deploy your code on Azure Functions. So the answer is yes, you can do it. For if you want to see some references, so I can share some links with you that how to work with it, with the how to integrate with the Azure DevOps and Azure Functions. You can do it.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, Vibor, so we can probably move on.
Okay, just a second. I think it's not behaving good. Part of it, everything is working fine. Okay, so we have finished this also. Now we will move for the security part. In security, what we have, let me explain. That we have authentication, implementing access control, and we have secure data solutions. So I will just quickly take the authentication part, that Microsoft Identity Platform. Now in these days, in our production environment, we are using identity framework, which is using OpenID and OAuth protocol, and it has become a standard. And basically, before that, we were using a different way to authenticate an identity. This is what kind of authentication? It's not normal authentication like we say we are developing an application and we are also managing our database, and a website wants to authenticate against our database. No, not like that. When we want to perform SSO, single sign-on, especially when you say you are downloading any app from the Play Store or Apple Store, and the app developed by any person, any developer somewhere sitting in the world. But the app, when you install the app says sign in through Facebook and Google. So basically, we are looking a mechanism where we can authenticate different devices, and on those devices we can pass a token, so they can verify token and allow you to access the session. In this scenario, OpenID Foundation created a protocol called OpenID and OAuth. Basically, it's a long URI which takes policies and different parameters, encryption, decryption, and works, and then passing token to a different provider, and different provider also using the OpenID and OAuth protocol. They accept the token and allow the user to access session. So what exactly I'm trying to say, let me quickly explain on this diagram. For example, we have an identity saved in our database. And I would not say this database, for example, take a enterprise directory. So we have Active Directory. All employees information have been saved here, and it has all users information. Great. Now I want to develop a website here, which I want to deploy on Azure. Sorry. Okay, this is, we have Azure now. We have app here, and I want to allow my users to authenticate through this AD user. Means people from worldwide, like any user is sitting here in different location, want to access the app, and then the request goes to here, and finally they access here. So if I will say this AD basically is containing the actual information of an identity. When where we say token, what is the meaning of token? So in this, I will make small change here. I say Active Directory contains users information, while we have a different cluster or different machines or machine where we say it creates token. So first of all, to authenticate an identity, I will pass request to AD. So it will say, okay, that we have authenticated an user or an identity. Then I want to generate a token. This request AD will pass to this token. In token, they will create a different URI. And what token contains? Token is collection of claims. So we have claims, and now claims could be the actual information of user. As I'm saying, could be or could not be. Could be actual information of the user or could not be. Could be a separate information which is not actually available in this AD users. And then this token, it will be passing to this app, and finally the app will pass this token to the user. Here we have browser. Browser says, okay, the token is traveling in a language called JWT, which we call JWT means JSON Web Token. As I mentioned, that nature is JSON. So it's a now browser-based capability. More about it, JSON Web Token. Earlier we were using SAML token, Simple Assertion Markup Language Token, which is not understood by different devices. So once we have token, then token will be accepted by this machine or device, and then they will allow session. This is one scenario where we have. Now I take a few more scenarios when we are using it. We say we have AD users here on the Azure. Now company decided to migrate from on-prem to Azure. So Azure says I am working on multi-tenant. Multi-tenant means I can create multiple directories there where I can store different organizations' data. Or I have a column, for example, Accenture.com, Accenture.uk.com, Accenture.us.com. So we have primary forest and we have then secondary forests there. Ultimately, primary forest will rule over all secondary forests. So this kind of scenario we have. So to achieve this kind of task, I need to create multiple directories on Azure. So for that, Azure provides you multi-tenancy concept. And basically it's coming from ISO or NIST, International Organization for Standardization. When they have given us cloud definition. So in definition, they say if any company is forming cloud or public cloud, they need to create multi-tenancy concept. So organizations can create multiple directories there. So we have AD on the on-premise level, and we have also AD on Azure, which I will say Azure Azure AD, Azure Active Directory. So I want to sync users. How would we perform this kind of task? Like to sync users from on-prem AD to the Azure AD. So here you have to install a tool which is called AD Connect tool. This, when you will configure this tool, it will ask some information about the Azure AD and some information about your on-premise AD. Then this tool will automatically sync all users from here. So ultimately, users will reach on the Azure AD, and now you have already deployed your app on Azure in App Services. You say this app service will authenticate from Azure AD, like that. So it's a way, like this is, I'm trying to explain that how we work, but it's not a simple example, or it's not a easy way. So I can say my app will directly communicate with the Azure AD users. The question comes here, then what about the security? Now app I'm developing in .NET Visual Studio, it's okay, but the app can be developed by a different language, for example PHP, for example Java, for different environments or different OSs we will be using there. Then we say it's not a standard way to communicate with it. So then we have Azure AD says we have a concept called service principal. And what I am explaining you, everything is based on a concept called OpenID and OAuth. Service principal says that you have to create an app here. You have to register an app on Azure, which is a part of Azure AD. App will provide you app ID and app secret key. Like this will provide you app ID and secret. They will provide you this information. You need to use in your program like PHP or like a .NET and Java anywhere. And then when you will run the application the first time, it will authenticate that we have service principal here. It will say yes, we have, and then it will be allowing me to connect with these users, and then the request from Azure AD users will go back to the on-premise AD, because we don't sync the password from on-prem to the Azure. The password still remains on the on-premise AD. Migration doesn't mean that we are actually destroying or removing the AD from our on-premise. It says, okay, our all resources are on Azure, so it's good to sync users, and password write back we can do. We say someone has changed or reset the password from Azure AD, so it will write back to my on-premise AD. So we can configure this kind of information on Azure. So actually, this app service principal is again a different concept. Now I am developing here. I am developing a Facebook app now. For example, the Facebook app now, the Facebook provider wants to communicate with Azure AD or Azure resource. So they say, first of all, create service principal. First, once you will be authenticated through service principal, then different token will generate to connect with your Azure resource where you want it to go originally. So everywhere in the all organizations are using this concept OpenID and OAuth. So I will be showing you that we have here Azure AD on our in our subscription here, Azure AD. I have more directories. This is my default directory. So when you get a subscription of Azure, you get a default directory or domain name where you get a default username also. And this is my domain name, vibhor818gmail.onmicrosoft.com. And if you want to see my more directories which I have, so click on this option. We have switch directories. So you can see I have few more directories here. As I mentioned that Azure is concept of multi-tenancy concept, so I can create multiple directories. Raj directory I can assign to someone, and default directory I can assign to someone. Then it's completely isolation. So this benefit to create multiple directories here. Now as if you click on the users here, so I will be this complete Azure AD Connect part, this kind of stuff. We have a separate course of Azure called AZ-101 or 103. I think 103 course we have, way of infrastructure. In this training, we show the entire thing, that how to configure or install this Azure AD Connect tool and sync users from here to there. So we will pretend here that we got users here. These users have been synced from on-prem. If you want to create a new user, you can create a new user by clicking on the new user option here. like here new user, and can for example abc at accident.com, but here we have my directory name. Can we have custom domain with my domain name? Yes, you can have custom domain also. You can define any name here and can click on the create, and then by this way you will be able to create a new user on Azure AD. But as I mentioned that we don't create it because users will be syncing from on-prem to Azure. Once you have user here, you can click any user, for example new user, and you want to allow multi-factor for this user. So Azure is fully configured with the multi-factor. Azure is fully configured with the managed identities, where you don't need to write a single code. If I want to authenticate against of different provider, so Azure itself providing me managed identity, you can just choose the provider and the task will be done or managed by Microsoft itself. Here we have multi-factor authentication part. You can click on multi-factor authentication. Once you click on this one, we will redirect on a different portal where it will be giving you multiple options to choose. So which user you want to enable or disable for multi-factor. For example, just click on the user and it will give you option called enable or disable. Now we need to select the options here that call to phone, text message to phone, like OTP kind of stuff. Then you can go to the different tab called service settings here. Click on this, and once you click on this, then we have all these options. And these are check boxes, not radio buttons. So you can check all of them, or you can check one off or two, totally up to you. Call to phone, text message to phone, notification through mobile app, like that. And once you will do it, you can click on the save. And once you will save it, so user first will be putting his username and password, and then OTP will come. Needs to insert OTP. You will be thinking where are we where are we giving the phone number? So when you will be accessing the application, at that time Microsoft will be giving you a page where you can write first your phone number. On the same phone number, it will send you an OTP, so you can see the OTP. Okay, this is we have. Now we have this new user, can allow multi-factor authentication for this user. Now, if for example we have new user now, if or let's create a new user here. So I say create user Sam, new Sam, username is this name, and we want to create this. This is a name. I say Sam is the name of this user, and it's giving me a temporary password. Click on the temporary password, copy it, and save here. This is my temporary password for this user, and click on the create the user. Okay, so we have SAM user. In this SAM user, we can see this is my complete user name I have, and if you will be accessing the same portal, like if I open the browser in incognito mode and type here portal.azure.com, and pasting this username, click on next, enter password. So I'm entering the password here. Click on sign in, and if it says your current password, new password, sign in. So it will be a different theme, different resource, like different first tour, or the fresh tour for this user. It says welcome to Microsoft Azure, maybe later. And if you go to the resource groups here, this user cannot see anything which we have. Click on the all resources here. We cannot see anything for this user. So this is like a way to create user. Now we will take a small, we are late now, 6 minutes late. We will take a break. After a break, we will come back and we will develop a website which will authenticate against of Azure AD users. Stephanie, is okay?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So this is, as I promised, that I will be showing you some references about the DevOps with Azure Functions. This is a link I have, and I will be sharing this link on the chat box with you, so you can take the help. Here they have given the support of the YML file if you want to integrate with the Azure Functions with Azure DevOps, or you can also use template-based pipeline, which is this kind of the options we have. You can go through once and can get the help how to integrate with Azure DevOps with Azure Functions. So I am coming back on my task, which is that I will be developing a website which will be authenticated against of the Azure AD. As I mentioned, that Azure AD users will be coming from the on-premise AD, which will sync. So how to work with it? So click on the file, new project. We are using Microsoft Visual Studio. So definitely we have productivity features and user intelligence available here. So I click on this .NET application, click on OK, and MVC application. Here we have some option called change authentication. Click on this. So Microsoft will give you some code, default code with your project template. So right now it's no authentication. It means no code will be available default in the project. I say individual user account. If you want to authenticate against a different provider, kind of Facebook, Twitter, Google, or Microsoft itself, you can use this individual user account. If you want to authenticate against of Windows users, so you can select Windows authentication. We have work or school account. It's against of the domain Azure AD. So click on work or school account because I am already logged in with my Azure credentials here, means same user ID and password, live ID. So it will pick my Azure domain name and click on OK. This is my domain name and click on OK. So what exactly is happening in the background? If I click on the OK here, something is happening because it has been connected with my Azure AD account. So my project name is Web Application 64, as we can see here, creating project Web Application 64. I did not change the name. It's a default name of the project. If I will go on the portal now in my Azure AD, here in the Azure AD, we have here app registration, which I explained on my diagram that we need a service principal if you are developing an application and want to authenticate against of Azure AD. So click on the Azure app registration here, and it will automatically create app here for me. Once the project will be ready, it will be creating an app here. The app will come with app ID and app secret key, which will integrate with my project. So when I will run my project, first it will authenticate against of my service principal, and then it will connect with the Azure AD users. So just wait for some time in creating a project because it's also connecting with the Azure and creating the service principal. So it will take some time. So we can see here we got this web application 64, and you can see my project name is also web application 64. I have 64. So it's creating the same name service principal here. If I click on this app, which is inside Azure AD, So app will give me app ID, and this is application ID we have, and we want to see the secrets value also. So this is object ID. The view has been changed of it. So second, close it. Go to the all applications, app registration here, and click on application 64. So okay, so we have this is application ID we have, and you can verify the last 4 digits are A91D, and we have certificates and secrets, and here we have also secret value which has been hidden now. So you can verify that this app ID which is A91D, you can see it has been already registered or integrated in my project. So go to the app web config file. We can see small changes in our code. This value is already is coming after, or once you have selected the work or school account and connected with your Azure AD. Here we have A91D. This is the same service principal we have, and when you will run this project, it will be actually going and hitting to this request. So Microsoft will send a live page where you can pass your credentials. And this is tenant ID. It means secret value we have. Once you will be logged in successfully, you will come back on this website. Even though I'm not deploying this application on Azure App Service, I'm running this application on my on-premise. So it's totally up to you. You can also deploy on the app service or can run on your on-premise, but you can take leverage of Azure AD service principles concept. So I'm running this application now. So I will copy this URL, and because I will be using my domain or my live ID with my Outlook account, so I don't think it will work. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I will copy from here and we'll paste here, press enter. Okay, so click on use another account. So you can log in with the same account, like same username. This is we created a new user there on Azure AD. I want to log in with the same user. Click on this user, and it's asking the passwords. Password I have saved here. I will be coming back, and then we'll be adding my password and accept. If we did not apply the multi-factor authentication, otherwise it would have given me now a page where I would have given my phone number and would have received OTP on my phone, and then I would have accessed this website. I'm coming back on my website where I wanted to originally come, and this is the welcome, the username. So basically, what kind of claim they passed to me? They passed username here. So my website captured this username and showing it on the welcome page. This is we have about like how to work with the Azure AD users. Now I will be signing out from this website and accessing portal.azure.com. Portal.azure.com. Okay. And again, logging with the same user, password, sign in. Yes or no, it's okay. Okay, so as I showed you that we cannot see any resource group here, while in my actual subscription here, you will see I have resource groups. These are my resource groups. Now, actually, now I want to allow this user to access one resource group, test GRP, and can access all resources which we have in this resource group, and can also create new resources in the same resource group. He will not be authorized to create a new resource group. He can only work within the same resource group. So I want to authorize this user. So for that, Azure comes some with built-in roles. So we have built-in roles here in Azure. Roles, we have the three main roles are owner. So for example, I have my subscription. I am default user of my Azure AD. So I am the owner of my portal, and I can create users, can delete users, can create resources, manage resources. And I can also allow other users to do the same thing. They can also create resources, delete resources, manage resources, but they can't grant access to other users so they can do the same thing. So owner can assign the power to the other users. They can do, but they can't do the same with the other users. And we call them contributors. So contributors role we have. In the contributor roles, as I mentioned, that they can create resources, delete resources, manage resources, but they can't grant access to other users. And third role, we have readers, and basically, reader role is only to get access of resources in the read mode. And these three roles will repeat with all different resources. For example, storage, for example, service bus, and different resources. So you can choose it. Now I want to allow this resource to the user to access this resource group. So you have to just click on this resource group, and here we have option called access control IAM, which is identity access management. Click on the access control, and just click on this option called add a role assignment. Click on add, and here select a role. In these names are actually coming now. Okay, so select a role. So we have owner, contributor, reader. If you will scroll it down, so these roles will repeat with, for example, contributor, in cognitive services, clean DB, MySQL DB contributor. So you can be specific with it. I'm saying on this to this user that he is contributor for this resource group. Now it says assign access to Azure AD user, which I am doing now. Group, this means a collection of users which you can keep in the group, or a service principal. So I have user called Sam, Sam new Sam. I would select this Sam new Sam and click on save. So it has been added here. Click on save. This is we have R back, and now I will be going back on this portal one more time. I will just refresh it and just refresh a few times. So we have to again log in it. Resource groups, still not. And we can see now. So go to resource group one more time. We can see only one resource group called test GRP, and in this resource group, he can see all resources, but he can't see other resource groups and resources. So this is we have RBAC in Azure. So this is we have done. Now, if you have any question from this part, you may ask. Then I will take a next module called Key Vault. So you may ask question, please.
It looks like Vibor. It looks like we do have one question. If I'm writing web services, will Visual Studio also set up my application to use the JWT, or will I have to write that up myself?
In the default Microsoft project template, they are working with the identity framework, identity foundation. so you don't need to write it. But if you want to customize it, then you can customize it also. So for that, Azure Microsoft gives you these interfaces: I role store and I user store to work with it. This is for identity, and we have object name called identity DB context. Identity DB context object. So basically, default in 2017 or 19, you will be getting, or even 15 also, you are getting a default code of identity itself. So they will be producing JWT. But if you want to customize the claims tokens, you can write your own claims, you can set the claims, you can get the information. Otherwise, default code will execute, which is again based on OpenID and auth, identity based, but default claims will travel then.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for now. If you want to continue.
Just a second. Okay, so now we have a next topic called key vault, which is key vault. Let me explain about the key vault. So basically, this key vault idea was for to keep your keys, secrets, and certificates on the cloud side, provider side. And it's not a vendor lock-in. What is the meaning of vendor lock-in? Vendor lock-in means when the provider says you can't leave me, you have to stay with me. It's not this kind of resource. So what you can do, you can create resources on Azure or like AWS, and then can go in AWS and can keep your all keys of Azure resources here. So you can do like that, secrets and certificates. So all resources we have on Azure, but all keys are available in this one. Now, if we are doing this kind of stuff, so actually Azure, if you want to access the Azure resource, it needs to connect the key, to get the key, to get a connection, and secrets and certificates. So for that, it has to go to the AWS. And now this is challenge for AWS. How would it manage security, and how would it manage this kind of a tricky part that other provider, which is very big provider, comes on your side and asks its own keys, which you have to pass securely. So on AWS side, we call it KMS, Key Management System, and in Azure we call it Key Vault to keep the keys here. So this I give you some scenarios that when we would be using the keys. So I give you example of a storage account. It has given me keys and some access keys to connect with my storage account. Cosmos DB was also giving me some keys. In your enterprise solutions, you also use keys and secrets and many certificates which you need to protect. Right now, on the organization level, on the on-premises level, we have devices called HSM devices, hardware security module, where we keep all the keys, but we want software-based key management system. So Azure says key vault. So just take this the example that we have a company called ABC. This is ABC company we have, and in ABC company we are developing a website called vb.com, and in vb.com website it's connecting with a database called MyDB, for example. MyDB. This is my database. The both actually application and database, both they are available on my premise, and actually it's safe. But what about the inside users? They can use it in a malicious manner, or they can be inside, like we call it inside hackers, or inside organization. The data can be stolen. So we want to protect our connection string like this, because in project when you want to connect with it, this application needs to connect with database. So here on the application side, we define connection string, server name, username, and password. Now Azure comes in this way. They say, okay, if you want to keep your keys of your applications, like your databases or sensitive information which you want to save on cloud, so they say we are providing you key vault service. when you will create a key vault service, it will actually ask the question that you want to only keep the keys or secrets or certificates or combination of keys, secrets, and certificates. So make sure that if you are saving keys, so select only keys. Do not select secrets and certificates in this scenario. So keyword says I can keep the old keys. So what I will do, vb.com basically needs a connection string to connect with my database. I will now cut this connection string and will paste in key vault like that. So this key vault service, when we will save it, it's as a service. As when I'm saying service needs URI definitely. So it will give me an URI. With this URI, you can collect your connection string. But it's not a straightforward like you can just pass the request here to there. It's like actually this could be possible. We are using Linux environment, different environment, and different provider we are using. So we also are thinking about security. So it says you have to again use a concept called service principal here. Service principal. In service principal, you have this service principal will give the app ID and app ID and secret value. So app ID, ID and secret, which you need to configure first here in your project. And when you will, and then it will this URI you also need it, where you have saved your connection string. So first authentication will be done by the service principal. If it says yes, it's a valid app ID and secret key the client has, then the request will go from here to the URI and will fetch the information. And then you can connect with database. So I have this kind of scenario. I will come back on my project. So this is, I have a project which is Key Vault project. And in this project, I have a connection string, which is as database is also on my machine. Application will also run on my machine. I will not deploy a database or application on Azure. Both they are on my machine. In this one, as you can see, this is connection string, and I have commented the connection string. It means it's not a part of my project anymore. But I can show you that we have this server name, which is running on my local machine, and the database name is quite big, actually 1225. You can just remember the last 4 digits of database called 1225.mdf. So just to verify that do we have this database in my local server. So just click on data connection here, add connection, and paste this server name. And this is based on Windows Authentication. And now just click on this database name list drop down, and you will find database list. And we have to find here 1225 database or MDF database. Okay, so time expired. One more time. Okay, just write here local DB and just check it. Okay, so we have database called 1225, which is here. Just check it here and click on OK. So what exactly I want to show that in this database I have some tables. In one of the tables we have a table name called users table, and this is basically coming from identity. So like one of them asked the question about that are we using identity framework in our project. So in the models we have identity model.cs. As I was explaining that we are using identity context now. This is my application user I have. In account controller, we are using this OWIN concept, and we are using sign-in manager, which actually communicates with the token and or like all different kind of authentication mechanism. For example, multi-factor authentication. So this sign-in manager task is to check that what kind of authentication mechanisms we have here. Like we are using first credential, then multi-factor. So everything will be taken care by this object. And this is I was talking about a user manager object we have, like which manages all user information. So ultimately, in default project, you get the code of identity, OpenID, and OAuth based token it creates. If you want to customize that, you want to send your own claims, so you need to understand some objects, which is iUser is like interfaces iUser store and iRole store, so you can write your own code to customize it. And that's the beauty of OpenID. If you talk about SAML token, so we were actually capturing the user information which were converting into the claims, and we were passing those claims. Now in these days, we say we have already authenticated user now, and we want separate parameters to create claims which will be shared with the other providers. So actually the claims or token could be separate from the actual information of user. So this is we have now here we have ASP.NET users. If I will show this data here in this table, we have some users. Let's see how many users we have. So we have only 2 users. So what I'm writing a code here, let me explain quickly. I will go on my vbcontroller.cs class. In this one, I need to connect, as I mentioned about the key vault, that we will save this connection string in the key vault. So for that, I will come on the portal. I need to create a key vault service quickly. So I will be creating key vault service, which is this one, and click on the add. And just selecting your resource group, test grp. I say VB SAM key and saving in Southeast Asia. Pricing tier, okay, click on access policy. Now this key vault you can also, as few times I explained about data is in motion, it is in process, it is at rest. So if you, for example, we are using virtual machine and we have C drive, D drive, means our disks we have, and in this data will be definitely traveling and processing, and data will be saved somewhere. So if you want to encrypt complete volume of your VM, you can use this key vault option. You have to use key vault to encrypt your complete volume. If you want to encrypt complete VM, virtual machine, you can also do it. And data, like small level data, you can also encrypt by the programming. So it gives you some templates. You can check them, but I'm not using these in this example. So it says now you want to create access policy. We do not have access policy. It means a service principal we have to create. So what did I do now? I will be going on this menu. I'm opening a new portal here of Azure to create my service principal. Last time when I was creating service principal, it created by Visual Studio. When I was creating a new project, this time I will be creating a service principal by own, because I need to use this in my project, in my code. So I will be coming here in the app registration and click on the new registration of the app. Just giving a name called test app and just give the same default values here. Click on register the app. Okay, so we have this app ID. Let me copy this app ID. As I mentioned in my diagram, that first when I will run my project, it will authenticate against of this app, and then it will allow me to connect with my key vault service. So I need to copy this app ID, which I need to integrate in my project here, which is this one, not this one, in VB controller. So here we have app ID. I will be explaining this example soon. Just let me paste this app ID 7459. Let me just verify it's same 7459. Yeah, it's same. B1 app. Great. Now I need a secret value. Go to the certificate and secrets. You can also use certificate to authenticate against the service principal, but I will be using a secret value. This is called my key, and it will expire in 1 year, 2 years, or never. You can add, and then before it will hide it, just quickly copy this secret value and paste in your project. Great, we have done it now. Now we have this service principal. I will come back on my this key vault page where I am creating a key vault service. I need to actually connect with my service principal. So we have add access policy. Click on this, and we have test app here. So you have to just click on this one, that what you want to save in this key vault. You want to save key, secret, and certificate, or you only want a key management, secret management, or certificate. Totally up to you. I am choosing now keys, secret, and certificate management. Now, if you have chosen all these three options, so you have key permissions, you can check and uncheck some permission, like same you have in secrets and same thing you have in certificate. Next option to actually select your service principal. So click on this option and find your service principal by this test. And we have test tab. I think, yeah, test tab. Click on this. Click on select. So now this key vault has been successfully associated with my service principal. Click on add. Click on next networking. Okay, it's coming now. Click on next networking. It says public endpoints can connect with it. Definitely. That's why if we will say no, so it means my project cannot connect with this key vault service. So I have to click on public one, review and create, and finally we are creating this key vault service. Okay, it's ready now. Click on go to the source, and here we can see we have keys, secrets, and certificates. So I will be going in the secrets option, and I want to create a new secret value. So I will be writing here default connection is my like the name, and the value I will be going back to my project, and this connection string which I have, this connection string I will be pasting in this secret, like here value, just paste here. Great, and click on the, you can also define set activation date and expiration date. Click on create. So this default connection has been saved here. It will, this is, we have, you can have different versions of the same secret value. I have only one version of it, and this is, we have URI. Copy it, and you have to paste this URI in this code like that. Great, we have. So we have, this is my key vault URI. I'm using secrets. If you would have used key certificates, so instead to have a secret, you would have seen here keys and certificates and default connection, and this is the value we have. And now I will be explaining the program. So first line, basically, after downloading the packages of key vault and service principal, which are those packages here. So we are using Azure Key Vault and identity model.clients.active directory of Azure. This will give you the object called key vault. It contains a delegate as a parameter in the constructor. So authenticate value, we have here a method. This line of code will basically go in the service principal, authenticate there, and then it will create a new token after authentication. So it means token has been changed here. So once you have been authenticated through service principal, the next task is to get the value from the key vault URI. And here we have key vault client.get secret async, and this is, I have pasted the URI. And then this parameter, this method is returning result. from this I am capturing the value, saving in the connection string. This connection string I am passing in my object called application DB context, and then from this context I am counting how many users we have. So we will see total users are 2 because we saw in the table we had only 2 users there. If I will run the project, the application is running on my premise and also database is also on my machine. So actually both things are here, but we are using Azure Key Vault to keep our keys managed, keys, secrets, and certificates. Here /VB, and now it's this request goes to the Azure AD service principal, and then it will, after authentication, create a token, which we call access token. Then with this token, the request will go to the Key Vault secret URI, where it will get the value, and finally it will allow me to connect with my local database. And here we go. You can see total users are 2. And this is the way to work with the Key Vault and how to integrate Key Vault with service principal. And this was example. So any question you have, you may ask, please. We have finished this part also. If you have a question, you may ask. You just type on the Q&A session.
So far, no questions. We'll wait a few more seconds and then we'll start in the next session.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's safe to continue. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a next module called Troubleshoot and Optimize Azure Solutions. So here we will discuss about the monitoring services, like monitoring services, autoscale. Autoscaling I explained yesterday when I was talking about when CPU percentage goes above 70% threshold, then second machine will be up. I explained that in the virtual machine scale set service, it provides us autoscaling option. Even in the app service, it also provides us autoscaling option. We have support monitoring and logging, and finally we have cache and content delivery. So let me quickly tell you that because we are using Microsoft managed environment when you are accessing Microsoft managed services, so the main thing is that how would we monitor, how would we check the health of our applications or services? So for that, Azure provides you some services to work with to just read your logs and diagnostic informations. For example, with every managed service, and now in these days also with unmanaged service also, for example, virtual machine, they are providing you application insight service. In application insight service, the application insight service gives you detailed information about your applications or services. For example, it provides you live streaming option. It provides you how many requests has been have been succeeded or failed, or response average time, that or how many servers, or how many servers you have deployed your applications. On each server level, it will be showing you the live matrices. So application insight service provides you detailed information about the services or solutions which you have deployed on Azure. Even though you can also integrate your application insight service with your on-premise solutions. And if you are doing it, for example, we have some application insight services. So I will go on my resource group in test GRP. And when we were yesterday, we created app service. So in app service, with app service, we got application insight service. So click on this. Even the function app, we also got this application insight service. So click on, and this is also we have many application insights. So click on this. So application insights, once we'll reach here, it will give you instrumentation key, which is this one. So programmatically, if you want to connect with this application insight service to get detailed information about your services or your solutions, so it will provide you. For example, this is some information that say failed request, and server response time, server request we have, availability we have. You can check with the live matrices here. If this, if you have associated with it, or your application is running, and because the app is offline right now, so it's not showing me. Otherwise, live matrix will start here. You can have also performance testing here. So you want to, for example, just to okay, let me quickly show this example. I have app service, and let me check here. This app service is running. Test app 321, and let me quickly create application insight service. So application insight. You can add. And select the resource group, test ERP, test app site is the name of it, and I'm creating in the Southeast Asia, and finally review and create. So I'm creating this application insight service. And if you will create app service, for example, quickly create app service here, because in this app service we are using a different application insight. So let's create an app service. What was the name of it? Click on this, the second test app site. Okay, so now here we will go on the app service and add. So this is a name called VB new SAM app, and this is code. You can use .NET framework, Windows. Okay, so I'm going with default values. Next monitoring, I want to select my existing, which we call test app insight, which is my application insight service. Click on next tags and review and create. So it's creating app service also. Now in application insight service, if you will go to the, for example, this app which I am creating, I want to test that this app is running on Microsoft managed environment. I don't know how many requests this machine can handle, so I want to test it. So application insight service gives you performance testing. So in performance testing, you can create a new test. It takes some time. So I will be explaining you here that how does it work. It's fetching that if we have existing tests here. Okay, so click on the new test here. Now in this website, if in this app service, you can copy this URL of this website like that. and come here, can say this we are creating a new manual test. Manual test on this URL. I want to hit the request. So how many requests you say? You can write here 10,000. So by this way you can identify that the machine is capable to handle 10,000 requests if it shows all requests successfully executed or managed by the server. And in 5 minutes they will be passing this 10,000 load, and this load will come from which location. You can choose the location and click on the run test. So it will show you out of 10,000, 6,000 requests done successfully, 3,000 failed. So by this way you can understand that this machine where you have deployed it is not sufficient, or you need to scale up or scale out totally. After this test you can verify. So application insight service also gives you this kind of information. On the app service level, if you have enabled all logs informations, so by default, for example, on this here, if you say you want to capture the live logs, you can see all logs information like tracing kind of stuff. So you can go to the log stream. Once you go to the log stream, it will say the application logs are switched off right now. So application insight service can't capture those informations, can't save this information, and can't give you detailed information. So you can go to the app service log section here, and then you can save application logging here. What you want to log, the errors, warning, information, verbose, so you can get detailed information. And if you want to save this information in the storage account for future references, you can also save in the storage account for that. Totally up to you. You can have a failed request on tracing, detailed error message, click on the save. So we have basically 3 different types of services which are used to check the health or capture the logs or diagnostic information. One is application insight service. So you can use application insight service for the managed services, and as well as Azure VM also. And this Azure VM application insight service will give you detailed information about the workloads also, the workloads running inside the VM. And Azure Monitor service is at the top, which captures information from different application insight services and give you detailed information from the top level. And if you talk about for example, we have enterprise solutions running on Azure as well as on the on-premises level, and you want to capture all logs and trace all informations. So for that we have a service called Log Analytics Job. So these three different types of logs services we have on Azure. So this is we have in the application insight part and monitoring part. App service, like if you talk about the auto scaling part in app services, it gives you scale out. So if you have, by the way, this is auto scaling option will not be available in the free tier. It will be available only in the standard, after standard, or only in this, or it will start from the standard mode actually. So if you have taken the standard mode during the creation time of app service, or later you can also increase the size, then you can use this auto scaling option. So we have custom auto scale. You can click on, in this one you can say how many machines. So I'm saying here machines. For example, I have a website ub.com is running on a single machine on Microsoft environment. This machine can only handle 4,000 requests, but right now we are getting 10,000 requests. So I need second machine definitely where I can pass my load. So this auto scaling option will do the same thing, but how would it transfer, how would it active to second machine, and second machine can active third machine, fourth machine, fifth machine, like that. So you can define this custom auto scale option, can define here, where you can define the rule based on the matrix. So click on the add a rule, and the rule will be based on different matrices. For example, CPU percentage. So right now in the matrix name, they are choosing CPU percentage. You have more matrices here. For example, data in, data out, disk queue length, HTTP queue length, memory percentage. So you can choose any of them, and they can define threshold that if CPU percentage goes above 70%, then second machine will be up. Now the question comes, how many machines? So yesterday I explained about the app services. I told you if you will go with the production environment like standard one, and we have 10 instances still auto scaling, and different mode was giving you 20 instances in auto scaling. So based on your selection, it will automatically increase number of machines. You will be thinking how is it happening? That's why we call it Microsoft Managed Environment. Your task is to define here threshold, and then one machine will add automatically. You can add also, you can add more than one rules. For example, data in and secure threshold. So one of the options will be like used or will be fulfilled. Then a second machine will be up or third machine will be up. So you can create multiple rules here. This is we have in the auto scaling option. Now, if you have any question from this, you may ask. Then I will be moving for the next topic called cache part. So if you want to ask, you may ask, please.
We don't have any new questions, but we'll give it a few more seconds.
Okay.
Okay, we did get one question. Can you explain how to integrate app service with VNet?
Okay, for that we have a service called App Service Environment, ASE. Can go to this, or when you create app service, okay, just like right here, type here app service environment, which is app service environment. You can use this and can integrate your app service with the VNet level. So then you can use your own firewalls. So more information about this app service environment, just take a let's quickly take a reference of it. So we have app service environment on Azure. And here we go. So you have VNet support here. So you can use ASC service, and then in ASC service, you can integrate with the app services. Right?
Thank you, Vipul. We don't have any other questions at this time if you want to move on.
Okay, so next topic we have about the cache. So as a programmer, we know that we are dealing with two types of cache. One we talk about the static cache, and second we call about the dynamic cache. So for dynamic cache, and static cache means that you have static data in your project. For example, we have CSS files, we have images, we have JavaScript files, we have some kind of PDF files, like something like which you want to, which you are not actually changing it, and you want to cache this information on different servers geographically. So for that, we have concept in static cache called CDN. We call content delivery network. And we have also in dynamic cache we have Redis cache. So we have Redis cache we call dynamic. So let me explain about the CDN first, content delivery network. So as I mentioned that we need to cache data. What exactly happens if I show this diagram, that I am in US right now, for example, and I have bought a domain name and deployed a website called vb.com. Here in this vb.com, I have scripts, I have CSS, I have images, and now from somewhere from Southeast Asia that someone is accessing my website. So we know about that the request will definitely connect with my nearest server in Southeast Asia somewhere. So I'm accessing here vb.com, and then this request will hit to the nearest server here somewhere. So I say nearest server, and then this will connect with its own nearest server somewhere. Like I will copy. Sorry. Okay, so it will connect here. Then it will be connecting with its own nearest server. Like that. And finally, it's actually now we have many different servers, and finally it's coming in US and here, and it's actually capturing or getting all data and then passing back by the same way, like that. If we are using the same technique, definitely the performance will be very slower, and no one will be liking the very slow page. So we have a concept called CDN. CDN, by the way, is a technique to store data on geographical locations. So what we do, if you have enabled CDN, so you can say all these folders will be cached on the servers where the request came and where from the response is going. So I would say all this data will be saved also here now, and basically it will be converting into a single HTTP request and will be shared in among all servers. So then the request will also say the data will also save here and also save here. So, and now next time if I am requesting for the same website, then it will connect with the nearest server. It will find that we have data already here. Then it will pass this information fastly and quickly to the client. We have a CDN, content delivery network, and basically how do they work? So they have their servers. So we have different organizations or companies which are working for network. For example, Akamai is one of them. Very strong network they have. We have Verizon. We have Microsoft also. So they have placed their own edge servers here. Edge servers actually, and there where the data gets stored, and this all data will be saved in those edge servers, and you can pass the information fastly. CDN is a technique to cache your static information in among different servers geographically. Okay, this is we have CDN, but CDN is not used to store or I can say where's my data. So this data is, as I mentioned, is in my application app service vb.com. So CDN is not a place where you can persist the information. After cache, it can save some data on the edge servers, but it's actually the main store is not the CDN. CDN will only point to the storage part where you have data, and then the CDN task is to just take this data from the storage and just cache on different locations. And what are those storages? So in CDN, as I come here and I say in the CDN, I have a CDN service. If you want to create a CDN service, for example, we have CDN profile service. So click on CDN profile on Azure and click on the create CDN profile. So I say will be CDN. It will take lots of time. So I will be explaining you about the CDN part and pricing tier. As I mentioned, that different networks we have: standard Microsoft, standard Verizon, Akamai, premium Verizon. So you can choose any of the network where it will cache data. So if I'm choosing Akamai, so it will definitely save on Akamai's network servers, not other organizations or the servers. So you can choose any of them. And for example, standard Akamai, you want to create an endpoint, click on the endpoint here. So this will take lots of, like I'm saying, endpoint now. So it says, what is the endpoint name? So I say VB-EP test. This is my endpoint name, and this origin type. It means where is my data? This VB-EP test.azure edge.net basically will give me an address where this address I will be using in my project to connect with my data. But where is my data? So it shows you in origin type. It says your data can be inside the storage. So you can point your CDN endpoint with storage or cloud service, which is obsolete now, web app and custom origin. So you can choose. Right now I have a storage account. If you will select storage account, select here. It's only taking here blob. So in the blob you have containers. In containers you can create containers called images, scripts, videos, and CSS. So you can create the containers then. So what will be the address then? Then you will be typing here vbeptest.azureedge.net / container name, for example, images, and / the blob name, it means file name. This data will be cached in the network which you have chosen here. This is we have CDN only for the static data. Now we talk about the dynamic data. Dynamic data means when your data has been processed and is coming after execution, then you will be getting some dynamic data. If you want to cache this data, then we have Redis cache. This Redis cache is open source. Microsoft used this open source in Azure and named it Azure Redis cache. So it's a distributed. You can easily install this Redis cache on different or disparate systems, for example, Linux, Unix, Windows, and can manage this cache by the command line. And the command line for references, I'm showing you here. You can type here redis.io, and all those commands you can find of Redis. This is commands of Redis here. You can use those commands to can manage your Redis cache. It's very lightweight. This is the behavior of Redis cache, that because of open source nature, many APIs we have, and it is lightweight and you can store complex data. What is the meaning of complex data? For example, we have data in relationship called one-to-one, one-to-many. So you can store this complex data directly in the cache, and we know the cache concept is key value pair. So you can store your data with a key, and with the help of the same key you can get your data back. This is we have Redis cache. So how to create Redis cache on Azure? So we have Redis cache, Azure cache for Redis. Click on this one, and then you can click on the add. As you click on Redis cache, it will ask some information from Redis cache. You can select it here, and in the cache it tells you pricing tier. In pricing tier, it says your site 1 GB, 6 GB, 120 GB. So based on that, you can choose your Redis cache size. And you can click on the create to create this Redis cache. So for this demo, because I knew that it will take time, so I have already created a Redis cache which is in running status. So remember about status. Status plays very important role if we talk about event grid. In event grid, you will understand if you don't know what is the status of your object or data right now, or what happened with it. So it is very difficult to work with the data. So always check the status always. This is running now. Click on this Redis cache now. It's in running state, and you can go to the console window here. And in console window, you can type here the command which I showed you here in redis.io commands to can manage your Redis cache. You can also integrate Redis cache with your tools. How could you use it? You can use keys, access keys. And these keys will help you to connect with your tool which you are using on your own premise. So this is we have primary connection string and this one. What I'm doing in my project here. This is a developer course. So definitely we will be writing some program and to connect with our Redis cache, storing some data in Redis cache. So I have here example called Redis cache. Very simple example. In Redis cache example. By the way, this Redis cache is coming from the Stack Exchange.Redis. You have known the name of the Stack Overflow. Is one of the companies they have Stack Exchange. So Stack Exchange introduced Redis cache, which is open source, and you have to download this package by NuGet, and this namespace will give you the object called connection multiplexer, and then you can actually connect with your Redis cache. So I'll go on my portal here. I need to copy this primary connection string. I'll copy it and just replace with this code like that, and just pasting it like. here. So we have now vb.redsam.redis.cache.windows.net, and this line will allow me to connect with the Redis cache running on Azure. This will actually get instance of iDatabase cache, and I have an object called person, very simple object called age and name. We have two properties. I want to just cache this object in the Azure Redis cache. So I am converting this object into JSON by using JSON convert object. And once it is in JSON, I can save with the help of key. So you can call cache.string set to cache your data in the cache. And this is a key name. When you want to retrieve it back, so you can take the help of key, because it was in JSON. You need to deserialize from JSON into object back. So I'm doing the same thing here. And finally, with the help of per copy, I'm accessing age and name. What is happening on the Azure side when you are saving some data? So you can go to the console window one more time here. So overview, we have console window. You can type here command called monitor. Just what is happening, like a tracing. You have enabled tracing on Azure Redis cache. What is going, what is coming, what has been saved. So everything will be traced here. You can just run this example now. You can go and check on the portal what's happening with my cache. Okay, so first of all, authentication done, because I was using some keys to connect with Redis cache, and then it shows you that with the help of set, you are setting a key. In the key, you have a value, which is object data, and then you again call get. Then you are retrieving the value back from this key. So actually, it's working fine. If you will see the output now, we can see the same data is coming back from the cache. It has been cached. So this is, we have Redis cache in Azure. So we have two types of cache called CDN for static data, and then we have Redis cache. This is, we have Redis cache. So any question you have, you just please ask the question, and we can then move for the next domain.
Okay, we don't currently have any questions. We'll give it a few more seconds to see if anybody has a question. Otherwise, we have about 30 minutes left. Okay, no more questions if you'd like to proceed.
Okay, so let's take the last domain. We have a logic app, we have Azure Search, API management, and event and message-based solutions. So starting first with the logic app. So what is logic app? Basically, logic app is kind of a workflow. If we know, or if we have worked with a SharePoint, and SharePoint gives us actually a designer page where we can define, drag and drop the activities, and those activities run in sequential manner and execute, and we finish the task. But in SharePoint workflow, we work against of documents, list items. But here we have different Azure resources. This is the first option, that if we have storage, we have service bus, we have function. So I want to actually use those resources as activities in the designer page of logic app. And moreover, you can also use your SAS solutions. If you want to also use SAS solution as activities in the workflow, you can also use SAS solutions, your own SAS solutions, or publicly available SAS solutions you can also integrate in the logic app. So let's create a logic app here and understand about logic app. So we have logic app. So basically what logic app does, it actually works like a connector. You can use resources to connect with each other, and once you have, and what are the connect, what are those activities? As I mentioned, your resources. So you can make a good big diagram, and without writing a code directly coming on the Logic app. If you want to write a code, you can use Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, it gives you cloud option. In the cloud option, you can also create a Logic app. It means same designer you will be also getting in Visual Studio, which we will be getting in the portal. So let's create a Logic app here. I'm selecting here test GRP, so I say VB Logic SAM, and this is, you want to use log analytics, you can use it. Click on review and create. So it's so simple to create a Logic app. And once this Logic app will be ready, it will directly redirect me on directly designer page. So if I click on the go to resource, and we have properties, but we will be reaching on designer page directly, where you can actually use activities. And what are those activities? So we have some activities like templates we have called when a message is received in a service bus queue. For example, you got a new message in the service bus queue, then what is the next step? For example, when an HTTP request is received, then what is next step? When a new tweet is posted, again, as I mentioned, that different solutions we have, you can also integrate other SAS solutions in your Logic app also. When an event grid resource event occurs, for example, when an event occurs, for example, on progress, something like that, then what else you want to follow? What else you want to perform the steps? Here we have more templates here. You can use correlated in order delivery using service bus sessions like that. We will be using here blank Logic app. We will make it so simple to understand Logic app. So you can see we have all templates here. You can find all templates here. We can also write in the search box. So for example, I select here service bus. So we have here a service bus. We have service bus. You can select service bus. For example, you can select, for example, Dynamics 365. We have also. So you can choose any of the template which is required for your project now. I am selecting here a request. So I say when a request is received, when we got a request, then okay. So we say when a request is received. So in the request, could be possible we have some request string parameters. You can use those parameters in the request here, and just type here your JSON schema, what you are getting through this request. For example, name, ID kind of thing. You can define your schema here. Then after that, when a request is, you can click on new step, and in new step you want to say that what you want to do. When a request is received, I want to send an email on a person ID that we got these messages. So for that, I say I will be using Office 365 Outlook, and I say send an email, and send an email, and it says okay, definitely it will ask for sign in. Okay, so this is, we have one activity, second activity. You can add many more activities again based on the project requirement. Like as mentioned, you can say storage queue message, a new tweet posted, something like that. Like you can add more activities and make it a bigger workflow, which can be useful for your solutions. I'm saying now I want to send an email to my different email ID called vibhor818@gmail.com. And you want to send a subject, for example, I say testing, and whatever the parameters, as I mentioned in the request, you can declare your parameters, which is in JSON form, for example, query string parameters. So if you have declared those parameters, they will come here in dynamic content. For example, ID, name, and address. If you want to pass those values on the person's email ID, or values means like their data. So you can just select here a dynamic content which will appear here. So it will come like that. Add name, it will come like this way. If you first of all the parameters list you can see in this section which we call dynamic content, and then you can use those parameters values to pass the user. So this is where testing. You can write here in the body section called test data, and then click on. Once you have done it, for example, you can save it and just click on the run to start this workflow. So click on the run, but before that I need to log in my account. So I am coming here. I say gmail.com and coming back on my portal, just click on the run. Coming back here. So right now we don't have any email here. Okay, it shows you notifications that successfully check the trigger, and if it shows you tick tick, yes, so it means my activities, all activities have been executed successfully. So, and if you will go on this email, I just need to refresh once. Not okay. I'm saying okay. I'm sending to whom? Okay, I got a different email ID. This is my okay. Okay, so I think something is wrong there. So you can go back to the designer page. So okay. Okay, there's no Vibo. Actually, sorry, got a spelling mistake. Save and run. Just to verify. Okay, so we got this message from my logic app. This is your logic app. That, as I mentioned, you can also create logic app by Visual Studio. In the Visual Studio, you can go to the file menu, can create a new project here, and then in the cloud option, you can choose logic app. Here, click on the cloud, and in the resource group, for example, click on OK. Then it will give you a box where you can choose your different resources, kind of web app plus SQL, logic app. So you can choose one of the resource from this box. And here on my Visual Studio itself, they will be giving the same designer page where you can drag and drop the activities. And here we have logic app. Just click, if you click on this logic app, you can also create logic app by this Visual Studio. So it again gives you designer page. So either you can go on the portal and you can use the Visual Studio to create your logic app. Okay, so we have taken this logic app now. As I mentioned that we have connectors here. Now, if you have any question about from logic app, you may ask, please.
Okay, we don't seem to have any new questions.
Okay, so let's go for the next topic called Azure Search. Azure Search basically is an API that in this API you can connect your search service with different data stores or data sources. Now the question is, what is the benefit? Because we are also writing APIs like SQL APIs to filter data. So if I talk about RDBMS, for example, SQL Server, SQL Database Service. Now I want to provide ODP-based URI to my client. What is ODP-based? I want to provide them built-in filters which come with the URI itself, and then they can use those filters to search data fastly. So this Azure Search Service says I will provide you ODP URI First, ODP service. Second, that you can create a different multiple indexes over your fields, so your data can be searched faster. And single search service you can integrate with different data stores, and you can create multiple indexers. What is indexer? There are two things. One is indexer, second is indexes. So for example, in my table I have, in a SQL table I have 10 fields. I say I want to put indexes. Why indexes? Because we want to search fastly our data from our data store. So Azure search service provides me indexes which I want to apply over my tables. So you can create indexes, and then you will create indexer. Indexer will be collection of all indexes. You can schedule it. You can also schedule your indexers that you can define in a schedule in the indexer that you want soft delete or hard delete, which we call like watermarking, which I will be explaining. So search basically will provide you indexes, collection of indexes, which you can apply over your fields to search fastly your data. And what kind of search? Against of your Azure resources, remember. So you can use Azure search for more than one data sources, which you will create on Azure portal. So we have already data stores. One is SQL Server, but we don't have data in SQL Server. We have also Cosmos DB. So I want to use my search service with Cosmos DB. For that, you will go in the search service. In search service, I have already a search service available here. So I will be using the search service. In search service, you have option called add index. If you say you want to create index by own, you don't want to use indexes for your fields which are available in your data stores. You can also create your own index here. But you say I have data, click on the import data. Click on the import data in the search service, and then you will tell where is your data. So in data sources, it will be showing you different way. You can associate your search service with different data sources. For example, SQL databases, SQL Server on Azure VM, Cosmos DB, Blob table. I am using right now Cosmos DB. In Cosmos DB, it says data source name. I don't know. I forgot the name of the data, Cosmos DB. So for that, they say choose an existing connection of your Cosmos DB if you have your any Cosmos DB account. So it found my Cosmos DB account, which is available in my subscription here, and I say VBCos is my data source name. Now, once you have defined the connection string of your Cosmos DB, you can just click on database, the fetch database list. So in this Cosmos DB account, we have this database, and just click on, once you have done this part, you have a collection. Basically, what is collection? It's a container. So new name is container, but somewhere Microsoft didn't change this word. It says still collection, because earlier name was collection. So we had hierarchy called database in Cosmos DB, then now we have container, but earlier name was collection. So you can choose your collection. So VBCon, we have a collection, and then you can click on the next option. It says add cognitive services, which is optional. So we don't need to attach it with the cognitive services. And click on the customize target index. And here we have you can see all fields from my Cosmos DB. They have been appeared here. You can say retrievable, that ID, name and address, filterable, sortable, grouping, face table, you can define, searchable, you can define. You can check and uncheck, totally up to you. So you can do like that. And this is your index name. And then we will create an indexer, which will be holding this index with all fields. And here you can also schedule your indexer, for example, hourly level. So we have a track direction, daily level. We have in advanced option, max page items per batch. So this is we have in this one. And let me just, okay, you can also define that start time and this time. You can define you can schedule it in a short, that when you want to run this this service, or to sync your data, to fast your data to get data. And then this service has its own concept called sharding and partitioning to search data fastly. Click on the submit. Okay, so we have this one. You can go to the Search Explorer. Just take the notification that that everything has been done successfully. Just to verify. Yes, it's done now. Just click on it, and this is we have request URL of your search service. Here you have index name. Right now I'm using Cosmos DB index. So you can see in this address we have indexes and Cosmos DB index. If you are using same search service with SQL, so it will be showing you here SQL DB index. You can change from this drop down. Click on the search. So it is fetching information from my Cosmos DB. This time I'm using ODB services. ODB service to find my data fastly from my Cosmos DB account. You can also write here filters. For example, I say $select. I want to only see the ID from my fields. So I can use this built-in filters. Click on search, and it's only finding the IDs. This is we have a search service. So as I mentioned that on your data stores, you need ODP with built-in filters with indexes. So the combination of everything will make fastly search. The data will be available quickly and fastly in front of the people. They can view it and with built-in filters. So if I will remove it, they are showing examples. For example, $stop, $top, $skip, and search. This kind of filters you can directly use with this service. So this is we have search service now. And what is API management? API management basically is a wrapper over your API services. So for example, I have 100 API services and I want to define different policies for API services. So I say 10 API services will take a different inbound policies and 20 API services will take a different policies. So earlier we didn't have any kind of wrapper, but now we have API management service on Azure, which will be used to define separate policies for separate services. Even though on API management, you can create your own operations and you can map these operations with your API services. So API management basically, it will be giving you this kind of scenario. Just take, because we have less time now. So I say this is my API management service. API management. So I say https vbapi.com and then / first service. And first service, basically here we have API, we have our APIs. So I say I have first service, I have second service. So I say to my first service, I have a different operations here. So I can define different operations and different policies, which will point to this one only. And different policies, as I mentioned, inbound policies and outbound policies. You can have a same HTTPS for second service, like you can define, change here, second service, separate operations for that, and separate policies you can define here also. So the API management gives you kind of a wrapper of it. This is we have API management, and also defined that, as I mentioned, that you can define separate policies, artifacts there in the API management. Now we talk about the event-based solutions and message-based solutions. So basically in the service bus, it plays very important role when you want to work with it. We have here we call it enterprise service bus. Enterprise service bus. Basically, enterprise service bus means when you want a secure channel to pass your messages, even though from one provider to another provider, or from one module or one component to another component, you want to pass security data on a message level. Then we have enterprise service bus. On Azure, they provide you service bus. So this we call it Azure service bus. So how does it work basically? They say we have a client here. We have two clients basically like that. And this is we have Azure. On Azure, they say we can create a service bus channel here. Once you will create a service bus, then it will create a relay for you. Relay, and this protocol schema will be SB, and now both clients want to communicate. Could be anything. For example, this is a client want to send some notifications or messages to this client, so they will connect with this service bus, and it will also connect with this service bus. You can make it bidirectional also if you want to, but you can also make it one-way channel, totally up to you. So service bus relays make a short life cycle between the clients and passing messages securely from one provider to another provider. This is we have a service bus relay, kind of a WebSocket we have, but WebSocket we use for social websites kind of a stuff. But if you talk about enterprise solutions, organization solutions, so we use this service bus concept to pass messages securely. In this service bus, we have a concept of event hub and event. We have three concepts here basically. Talk about event hub, event hub, and event grid. Sorry, event grid, and we have notification hub. So all these are basically using service bus concept to pass messages securely, as I mentioned, from different provider or for different components also. What is event hub? Event hub captures real-time information, means data. For example, if I want to capture weather information, so we know weather information is weather is changing frequently after some distance, or like 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer. So we are capturing bulk amount of information. We don't have time to save this data in database and then fetching information. So I want to capture and quickly want to visualize it, analyze it, and want to pass this information to the users. So event hub basically captures real-time information. Event grid takes event status information. For example, when your data is processing, there are many actors in between. So you want to know what is the event right now going on with my data. So for example, I was saying status running or on progress or abort or stopped or something like that. So you want to capture all events information which will be used, which for that we will be using event grid. And notification, basically I explained yesterday that if you want to pass a message from one provider to another provider, for example, from C# program, I want to pass notification to Android phone users or Apple iPhone users. So this they provide you secure mechanisms. So I would say when you talk about security, definitely and talking about the message level, I will be recommending you to use service bus to attach different components or different providers. And actually, because of time constraint, I'm sorry that I couldn't show you the examples of it. The last topic was a bit fast because we have a time limit. I tried to cover most of the topics. I tried to show the examples also. This section, just to understand, and if you just after this information, you can go to the Microsoft Docs, can get help from Microsoft Docs to understand more in depth how do we use this event hub. Now, guys, if you have questions, you may ask, please.